All right. It is indeed a very, very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us at this edition of The Tackle. It is the 7th of November 2022. Ni sawa mwezi wa 11 mwaka 2022. Natumai kwamba uko salama. I hope you're woken up well. It's another Monday. It's a chilly morning in Nairobi, but at least it's not raining this morning. And I hope you've got up and you're ready to kick off your week. This is a common sense edition of The Tackle, the 7th of November 2022. This is where we get to talk about life and money. We talk about your life, your relationships, and your other ships. Also, we talk about your money and how you need to make it and also keep it. Kama kawaida, on Tuesday, on the other Monday again, we have LEVI KONES. That's it depends on where you want to school. If you went to a group of school, you say LEVI. If you went to a polling station like me, you say LEVI. All right, so we have LEVI KONES this morning as well. We continue to make perspective of different conversations. And last week we had a conversation around alcohol and addiction in the face of accidents that are happening on the roads. We've seen a lot of accidents that have been happening. We talked about alcohol last week. We touched on it, and there's a guest that we were hoping to have last week that we didn't manage to have, or didn't show up. But this week we have this morning, and you get to know her very shortly. You're going to take us through some of the phases of addiction. She's gone through it herself, and right now she has dedicated her time to ensuring that she can help other people to get off addiction and help you live a healthy life. All right? You'll get to know her very shortly, because that should be a surprise. I know you've read it already, but you've not seen her. Until you see her, you've not known her. All right? Kama kawaida lazima tuembeleza Mungu tuombe, alafu tukirudi tunajua kujua ni nani ameweza kuamka mapema hii. Lakini as usual, ni join please like when you like, we get to know that you're watching us. And after you share, when you share, you give someone else an opportunity to watch the broadcast. We also have something coming up for you very soon. And it's going to be something for men, and men only. You'll get to know more. Levi, good morning.
Morning.
Namna gani?
How are you doing?
Uko chonjo. Hizo kofia zako unakuanga nazo ngapi?
Ile kofia nakuanga nazo kadhaa. Actually, it just said like a joke. It became like a style. Sometimes when people give them to me, I've got no problem. Ziko sawa.
Mtu akikuletea kama zawadi unachukua.
Anachukua.
What is the motivation? Unajua hii ilikuanga ya baba man.
Si mambo na baba. Don't just take a whole kofia and attribute it to a gentleman.
Maybe it's an inspiration that you had from and you're like.
Unakumbuka ile yenye Ruto alikuwa anavaa ile flag ya Kenya. Then they said kofia za Ruto. It became the Kenyan flag became the Ruto flag.
Well, it's good to see you. How's your weekend?
I'm all right.
Okay. Naweza tuombe.
Yes. We can pray. Let's pray. Yeah. Father, we thank God for this morning and for even allowing us this beautiful moment to be able to even have a conversation here. We pray for everybody who is listening, that God, you'll also edify them, and that we might as well have a good week and even be able to do all the things that we are aspiring to do in our lives. We pray all this trusting and believing in Jesus' name.
Amen. Asante sana. How's your weekend? Ni nywele hauna ama nukunyoa ulinyoa yote?
Ni nywele sina. I'm bald actually.
You're bald.
I say balding at 27.
Pole bwana.
I think it's one of those, what are they called, moments of karma. Some of the sins you do. God starts dealing with you.
I'll not be surprised with your
He starts dealing with you from the top.
With the accumulative sins. I'll not be surprised if you have to lose hair for it.
He starts dealing with you from the top too.
Sasa yako inakuwa top bottom, si bottom up.
Yeah. And nilikuwa msewa madredi, maafro nini, you know.
Ala ulikuwa iko na dread?
Yeah.
Siku gani uko na picha?
Yeah, from the past, yes.
You need to show me one.
I need to show you a photo.
To actually believe that you once had hair.
I once had hair. Fairy tale. Even I tell my daughters, they don't believe. But now, hii imekuwa ni lifestyle. Sasa nimekubali matokeo.
How was your weekend?
It is what it is.
How was your weekend?
Slow.
Mischief?
Hii weekend ilikuwa hata ina pesa. Very slow weekend.
And as a man, you know women can survive through brokenness.
As a man, it really weighs down.
Mwanaume bana hata uwezi toka hata yani uwezi jaribu hata kutoka kwa mlango wako hivi.
Yeah. And you know the thing about Mondays, I've seen a guy write a message there about having no rent, and you know Monday really weighs heavily on people. Bosses want their deadlines on Monday. Some surprisingly small things happen on Monday. Hata gas inaisha Monday. Many times. Stresses too from nowhere appear on Monday. So
umeweka tu maziwa na majani kwa moto.
In a boil.
Unataka kuweka chai, gas inaisha. Uwezi rudi kunywa maziwa na uwezi kunywa chai.
Ama hata unasahau ina boil over, inamwagika. Very funny things. So Mondays are usually not good times for many people. That's why I tell people mostly, if you want a favor from someone, forget about the Monday.
Forget about it.
Chances of getting no are very high. Ukiomba mtu pesa Monday saa hii asubuhi.
Kisirani ni mingi.
Kisirani ni mingi.
Ndio umeona tu niamkie uniombe pesa mapema hii.
We pray.
All right, let us know where you're watching us from this morning. Munga little continue. Good to see you all the way from the United Kingdom. Convent, United Kingdom. Good to see you. I hope you're still in Convent. Jude Kimurgo Chamge. Good morning to you, Jude. I hope you're doing well. Amos Kiliwa Jarab Talk. Sina rent, mkuu. Utanishtua hapo ukiguzwa. Haya. Jude says, Gerald did for that is a fair game. Let's do it now. Share my page too, bro. Aya, sawa sukuma tutapangana. Blessing Korir watching from Tarbo. Asante sana Mkulima Goren. Good morning. Good morning to you. Hope you're doing well. Let's check out who is on YouTube this morning. Our YouTube guys, you're happy as well. Good morning. Good morning to you. Let us know where you're watching us from this morning. Let us know where you're watching us from this morning. Good morning. It is indeed a very, very good morning to you. We are bright about getting a conversation, and we have Caroline KAGIA. We have Caroline KAGIA with us this morning in the studio, and that is our surprise guest with this morning. I hope she'll be able to lay it bare as we move forward. So tell us how it is. Like if you have someone who is struggling with addiction, or you are also struggling with addiction, you can always reach out to us to kusaidia. Pole. We've been doing this thing for the longest time, and we get up another human being get out of addiction. Good morning to you, Caroline.
Good morning. How are you?
How are you doing? Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
For me, I love Mondays.
I
don't have any bosses to report to. My Mondays are pretty good, particularly this one, in this room that is full of energy.
You know one thing about Monday? I don't know what happens to them, but most of the time on Monday, yani naota kama nimeshatoka home, nimefika job kwa office, kuma I'm still in bed. I come like shit. It is. Human is 5 foot something. You're like, what the hell is this? I think the mind is still always having some weekend hangovers. So
for me, I like Mondays because nowadays I don't have the literal hangover.
But you say hangover,
you did, you hated
kulala.
Well, I hated them big time because lazima ningetoa lock asubuhi. Wines and Spirits, 6 a.m. niko hapo. I've gone to buy my kanudhu.
Kanudhu ama nakakuotha?
Kanudhu. Mine was the real 500 ml. Konyagi, wow. Don't joke.
Konyagi?
Yes.
Nikuuliza Karo. Umekunywa pombe kiasi gani? Ukipima hivyo kiasi pima liters.
I can't. I'm alive today by the mercies of God. Honestly, I cannot tell you. It's in gallons.
Wow.
Of alcohol. And many people don't believe I'm in recovery, but the grace of God is sufficient. Yeah. I'm alive by the grace of God, I'm telling you.
You know, I thank the Lord because you guys are looking at each other. This is another one.
We are birds of the same feather.
Like a specimen.
We are birds of a feather, bwana.
People would want to know, okay, who are you? Maybe you can just introduce yourself very briefly. Nani, alafu tunaingia story wanaanza.
Okay.
Who is Caroline KAGIA?
Caroline KAGIA is professionally, I'm a certified addictions therapist. I'm also an international speaker. I do a lot of speaking on matters wellness and alcoholism related. I recently wrote my first book called Still I Rise, which talks about my life and other addictions that I went through that I've not really shared publicly. I am a mom. I have a 17-year-old and a 7-year-old. Allah, I know. Allah. I don't look, I told you the grace of God is sufficient. I am also a recovery and wellness coach. I speak, I teach, I mentor, I'm so many things, and I'm also a born-again Christian. How can we forget that? Hallelujah.
Amen. How long have you been doing this? My daughter.
How long have I been doing what? How long have I been doing what?
What are you doing?
What I've been doing? I've been doing this since, I've been speaking and teaching and mentoring since 2018. Okay. That is after a long struggle and a long journey and battle with alcoholism and cigarette nicotine addiction that spanned close to 2 decades of my life. And so after 2 stints with rehab, I have finally gotten my act together, and now I am spreading the message of hope, and especially to women, because in Africa, alcoholism is still the elephant in the room. I keep saying we look at alcoholism amongst women like the way we used to look at HIV and AIDS in the 90s. It was talked about in hushed tones. But now alcoholism is really bothering women. And you should see that the messages I get in my inboxes from women who are silently struggling, but they don't want to come out because they're not sure how they'll be viewed. Because truth be told, if you're an alcoholic and you're a woman, you're seen as a prostitute. For whatever reason, those 3 words go together, I still don't understand. So there's that stigma that is associated with the alcoholic woman. But you see, alcohol, like I say, is no respect of gender. It's only that it hits us differently as women because we are the ones who give birth to the babies. You know, we are in our reproductive years. You see, so an alcoholic mother brings forth an alcoholic seed, and so the story continues. But I also formed an initiative called KAGIA Wellness Initiative. And I formed it with the aim of assisting particularly women who are struggling with alcoholism and getting them to speak out and share their story because not many do. And yeah, I also call myself #Voice for Women in Recovery in Africa. I'm those ones who came out of rehab guns blazing to say that alcoholism is real, but it is also manageable. Not curable, but manageable.
Yeah. You can't cure it.
You can't cure it.
We'll get back to that. But before you came in live, we're having a banter. Yeah, you know, with Levi, you never miss a banter. There'll always be something to say. And actually, there's an idea I used to hear last time recently. And I was thinking about a show called The Banter. Yeah, where you have a useless conversation. So we've been talking about relationships from the past, you know. And sometimes people really struggle a lot with the past of their partners, whatever it is. Kuna stories jia watu wanasemanga watu walikuwa wangapi nini. You know, you look at the past and sometimes it spills over. But sometimes you show up, you know, with mama somewhere and there's this guy who comes and hugs. From those days. How do you deal with the past when it comes to relationships? Mwanaume huwezi lenga. How do you, because they say, it's in the past, you know, move on from it. But as a man sometimes, how do you, because I think men struggle with it a lot. Because men are naturally territorial. You want to protect your space.
Yeah.
And how do you deal with this?
And I think we're even more jealous than women.
Of course.
You know, there's that imagination that every guy has that your woman is yours. Nobody has touched her. Nobody can touch her. I don't think anyone should ever sit in that space and tell themselves that it is an impossibility. Because as long as the men in this world are not blind,
things shall happen.
They are also seeing what you are seeing. Things can happen anytime. Anytime. And you just need to be alive to that fact. I think those are the problems that when we talk about some of these things, because there are many factors that end up in causing, for example, domestic violence. Many times we just zero in on alcohol, drugs, you know, the fact that somebody may have. But the other times we fail to look at is really where you're coming from yourself as a person and how you view things. Because alcohol does not, how do I call it? Alcohol doesn't change us. It just amplifies who we are. It just takes it and adds volume.
Amplify.
If you are jealous, if you're a bit angry, you know, if you are arrogant, double time, you know. So if we start dealing with the inside man, it also helps us, especially for men. One of the biggest problems is just refusing to analyze yourself and your own emotions. If you have the possibility that significant person you have, the one you're with in the car right now, the one you've just left the house with, the one you're listening to, if you have a thought that person can actually leave you, no, okay, you'll tell me, okay, of course, in a good, loving relationship, you're not supposed to think like that, blah, blah, blah. We are there till marriage and life and eternally ever after. Good for you. But spare a thought that could happen, because the event that it does happen, then you're not too crushed because it was a possibility.
So it's always good to entertain that possibility.
Yeah, these are human beings.
That umsa anaweza kutoka.
Anaweza toka. The way we entertain that, we always say at men, that men are dogs. If men are dogging, they are dogging with who? So with women. Yeah. So let's entertain the thought that also that can happen. Then with that, and not that to make you so suspicious.
Ama kuna msana anaweza kuja tunapita
yeah. And not to the point where now you go to the extreme, where now unaweka mchana wako on check. You know, Joe, the watchman is always telling you kama amefika saa ngapi, ametoka saa ngapi, nini. You're worried about now, you're now on the extreme side. No, it's just a balance in your life that, yeah, we're in a good place. We are going together, thank God for last year. Hopefully this year will be as good as last year, and next year will be the same. But in case it doesn't, then you're not too shocked about it.
So, but then how do you draw the line between the past of your partner? Is that one of the things that you want to know? Is it something that you should ask, how was your past? Was this and that?
Ask to the point where it's palatable to your head. I think Carol will tell us better, because one of the things I've never asked personally is body count. There's a drama nowadays about body count. Now, why do you want to know that? Some even go as far as saying, hey, what did you do? Have you done this with her? Did you do this with him? Did you hang from the ceiling? Boss. If you're not hanging from your ceiling yourself, utachomeka sana.
So only ask as much as you can accommodate.
As much as you can,
as you can
take.
As much as you can take.
Ni kama buffet, huwezi kula kila kitu. Vitu zingine una avoid. Kama ukulagi samaki wachana.
Usiokote, bure utaamka kesho.
Utaamka.
You'll be making shuttles between the room and the toilet. So another thing is sometimes you're in a with a partner. As a man, you're operating with a partner. You're dating someone who might be operating in a space of men, and there is camaraderie with man where, I've gone to. Sheila tells you, nimeenda kwa Levi coffee. Levi ameniita kawa. We are friends. We are friends. How do you get to live with that? And actually have a lot of faith in the name of the Lord that with all this space, nothing is happening.
Sasa, you just, it's like marriage is like, scuba diving. Mm-hmm. We go in the hope that there are no sharks. And if you don't have hope, then don't get married. Because there's a point at which you must just let go. Mimi niko hapa. Si wife yangu ako job. Are there blind men there? No. And nowadays, by the way, funny enough, because we have of the control systems we have, people are doing these things even during the day. There's only so much you can control.
Mtu 6:30 amefika home.
You can control. Utafanywa mambo bana. So that is where the key thing, trust. Trust is having faith in something you do not see.
Hallelujah.
That's trust. Trust with backups is no longer trust.
Okay.
That's now evidence. But trust is just simply having faith in something you do not see. You wake up in the morning, you swing your legs out of the bed. What do you expect? That you're going to stand? That's trust. You enter a lift, you expect that it will go to the 5th floor and not drop down. That's trust. You sit on a chair the way we sat. We did not expect it will fall into pieces. That's trust. Same amount of trust you must apply. You're just applying trust that as you sit in this relationship, it will hold. Otherwise, you will spend your days in a turmoil, asking yourself so many questions. Na peace of mind, let me tell you, mtu ataingizwa kwa box, mwanaume unaenda kwa grave peke yako. Unless they dig a grave to feed the two of you, which doesn't matter anyway. Coffin ni wewe peke yako ndani. Sindio? That means you are the master and the controller of your own fate.
Na hakuna mtu anakubali mkufe pamoja, by the way. Kama do you know if you are to ask your wife, would you like us to die together? She will not accept.
She will not accept. She'll ask me who will take care of the kids. But we all know it's more than just that.
But there's nothing else. I don't know. Women do. I don't know why women imagine that we'll be the first ones to die. Sometimes we are a bit irresponsible.
It's natural order. Carol, tell us. You're a lady.
Carol.
I'm taking part in the banter. I'm not married, but this is an interesting conversation. One, if I was to get married, I would not be interested in knowing the body count. I think it would put a caveat on how I view this man. What you did in your past, let it stay there. But it would be interesting to know of the relationships that took you a long time to let go of. Because I think each and every one of us has had a relationship that you've struggled to let go of. Those things we call soul ties are real. It could be sexual or emotional or physical or whatever. But
so you don't mind? You don't have an issue with the past?
With the past?
With the past, yes.
If it has a way of, there are some things that you want to know.
What do you want to know? 15. As a woman, what's that you want to know?
The reason behind his last breakup and why he chose to be with me and not with the person that he was with before. And why me and not somebody else? That's what I would want to know. I don't care how many people you've slept with, by the way, because I don't want you to know. Yeah, I'm serious.
Sounds like a HR interview.
No, you see,
You have to trust us to be ready with an answer.
Now, let me tell you, we are all in different spaces. I have never been married. If I was to get married now, I'm at a different... I've seen a lot. I've done a lot. I've talked to people like you who've been married. Some married before, divorced, separated, done everything. But me, I've never been. So for me, it would be a new thing I'm getting into. And I'm not exactly young. I've been blessed with the young looks. But, I mean, I would want to get married to somebody who is solid. I have a past. I am comfortable with my past. Like for me, example, I'm comfortable with my past. If I was to get married now, my past would never come up. I'm almost certain. Unless, I don't know, he threw something in the wax and I'm like, oh God, where did that come from? But I'm comfortable with my past. So even he should be comfortable that the past is the past. It happened. I shouldn't wait one day for somebody to knock on my door and say, hey, Nani, I am Nani's Nani. Those ones, I don't have the time, man. I don't have the time. So, yeah.
Okay. So how honest should you be?
How honest?
Good question.
Ooh, wow, that's a conversation for another day. I don't know. Hey, honesty is I don't know. That's a difficult question.
No, but I mean, if you are to speak, if you are, that's
I had a past. I had this chick.
How honest would you be about your past?
Huh?
How honest would you be about your past?
I have to, for example, I have 2 kids, but I was never married. But I have 2 children and they're there. I'm not those women who hide their children in shags. They don't even have a shags. You go and hide your children in Ushago and date a man, and then on the wedding days when the children show up. For me, that is honesty. I do have 2 children, but I've never been married. Why was I never married?
Forget about the children.
For me, I think those are basic disclaimers.
No, don't say that. Me, I know people who got married. I know people who've married.
Tax declaration.
Not that. Listen, I know people who've married or gotten married and then the children show up on the wedding day. I've seen it happen with my own eyes.
Okay.
I've already seen it. You see, but for me, you're honest. I had a past, I was engaged to this one. It didn't work out. Why didn't it work out? Because of this and this. Is there anything you want us to discuss about your engagement? Is there any chance of you guys getting back together? As simple as that. Don't tell me, CG, when you were in primary, you slept with I don't know who, all the way to high school, to uni, to... That's irrelevant for me.
So why utasema kila kitu venye iko? You lay it bare.
Me, mine is just bare. Me, I was like this. I mean, I don't even have secrets. For God's sake, my story is all over the world. So really, there's not much I can hide.
Levi, how honest would you be? How honest would you be?
I tried, personally. Personal experience when I met my wife, it actually was, and it helped, by the way, that I told her some things, because certain things came up later. But it helped that I had said something.
At least ulikuwa umetangaza.
Hata juzi aliniambia kama ungekuwa mimi show your story.
Ungejua ujue.
Imagine how many years have you been married?
Ni nimedak kwa hiyo kona kitambo sana. Now we are closing in on 10.
You see.
So you'll be 100% honest.
Well, I was 100% honest with what was, you see, what she's saying is this, these are the basics. Now, you don't go into, like I told you, no details at your...
Unaingia kwa context.
At your, at you know, we engaged this way, we were in a lift, too much info can also be dangerous. But on the basics, you need to say, you know, I've dated so-and-so, it was serious, I almost got engaged, it was serious, those are things you say. You leave them out there. In the nitty-gritty as to how many times.
Don't open litigation.
This happened. I think it's unfair for both parties to ask each other those questions. True. Because then they just linger in your minds. No wonder we have got so much, and I'm very passionate also about this story of young men just taking matters into their own hands. You know, and, you know, beating your woman, getting very violent with her, kicking her, and even sometimes even up to death, because of some of the things you are not able to control. And imagine that this person has also met other people. Surely, how unfair can you be? How unfair can I be to imagine that I came on this earth and the only person my wife knows is me? Very unfair. Hata yeye alikuwa shule, there were boys there, alipita high school, there were guys there, alipita campo, there were guys there, there were even guys next door. I mean, who are you to think that it's only you on this planet Earth? But the way ring fence mtu, so that person has to just give you. No wonder there's a lie. You ask a lady, how many guys have you been with? She says 3. That's the standard answer. And she'll tell you the first one was like, it was high school, he just used to write letters, was nothing serious. And then there's the guy she actually lost her virginity to, and then there's the one who almost married her. And then now there's you, the hero who was coming. Now you're being told, ni wewe tu sasa. You are causing someone to lie and miss heaven for no reason. And you yourself, you're lying because there's a string of chicks you have umized all along.
I think that also should come with a disclaimer that anything you say going forward shall be used against you.
The court of our home.
The court of our home. Sometimes zile labda umefanya makosa sikia naona hata uliwachonga na njeri.
No, unajua nini sasa hiyo pia is another story because there should be a format. You see now when you enter in a relationship, there must be a format on how you fight.
Okay.
There are certain things you should not say. Okay. There are certain places you should not go. Fights have to have a structure. Mm-hmm. If your fight is open-ended where anything goes, it only comes and destroys you later. Things like that no wonder uliachwa na nani. Those are not good things. They just create resentment. And eventually, something will happen in that will not be good. So you can't build that. Because you have, ukisha choose umekuwa na mtu. Then and you truly love them, then there are certain places you cannot go with them. In terms of fighting. You don't fight to destroy. This is your person.
Napigana tu kidogo.
Ile tu unataka kuleta, maybe wewe umekanyagwa chini, over here, by the way, you're not so good, but you don't fight to kill. It can't be. That's the person you're in war with. You're supposed to be fighting the world like that. You fight to kill other people outside.
But not this one.
I mean kill in, not in the little sense. Way. But you fight to now chapa wengine, but the two of you cannot go there.
All right, last question on that. Exes. We're just friends. Carol, my ex, we are just buddies. When you hang out, but we are just friends. I'm my wife and we talk. Quite like I seen my best too. How close do you have to keep your exes? So do you be comfortable if your guy, for instance, keeps contact with the exes?
An ex that you slept with. Or an ex that you didn't sleep with.
What is an ex? What is an ex?
Not necessarily. You could have a boyfriend that you never, or a girlfriend.
What's the difference? Maybe just lack opportunity.
Like my father once said, the penis does not get saved. Okay? The penis does not get saved. It doesn't matter if your ex now is a Christian or what. The fact that you had some sort of emotional connection, anything can happen. Anything can happen. I'm friends with some of my exes, but from a distance. From a distance.
How many kilometers away? What is distance?
We talk on phone. We don't have to meet. If we have to talk, but you're the one who look for me, I don't look for you.
So you don't mind if also your guy talks to the exes on phone? Any chat on WhatsApp?
Oh gosh, now that you put it that way, let exes remain exes. There's a reason.
So unaokopa kuanzia leo? So kuanzia leo unaachana na my exes na masi?
Wachana na my exes.
So wewe unaenda kuacha, ukitoka hapo unaenda kuacha?
I don't keep in touch with any really.
So umesema unakupigia na unaongea kwa simu.
But you see, I talk to them if it's biashara, yes. Not at high, let's hang out and have coffee.
What if also I'm Uganda, I'm having biashara with my exes, he's talking.
I don't know, but it gets tricky. It can become complicated. Especially if you share the bed.
You see, now that you've given her the flip side, she's a bit unhappy. But as well as like, you have to talk about things.
What if they're colleagues? What if it's a colleague you have to work with?
I don't know. I don't know.
This is murky waters.
Yeah, it is.
Exes is neither here nor there. I think you yourself, to what extent you are. Okay. They are the exes that are the exes from hell. You're supposed to. They're the ones you're supposed to. There are some you burn everything, even the bridge that would have led you back. Unachoma your bridge. Kuna watu you're never supposed to talk to again in life. Okay. You know the extent and the dangers and everything, and even the way you broke up. Then there are others who you can say hi to. You don't have to actually now become somebody's. But you can say hi to. But I do believe that there are some people who tried a relationship. It never really worked completely, maybe when they were much younger, and do better off as brother and sister, sort of. And nothing really happens between them. I do believe it happens, by the way. And then that thing never really took off. I don't buy that every ex you have to go running to imagining something will happen.
But you see, there's still that connection. There's that emotional connection still. And
some
anything
things
could
die
happen.
and they die. Actually, mchezo nyinyi.
Sasa nikuuliza, you don't mind you arrive home after this show, ufike home jioni, but mama she's on phone laughing hysterically.
Why do we need to use such an example?
No, you know what?
Kuna laughter ingine dangerous yenye ukisikia unajua
Ladies and gentlemen, wachaneni na my exes.
I don't know
There's a
why
reason
you
they are
talking
called
to us
exes.
about this. This is
They
not why
are
we
called
came.
exes.
I need to engage further.
Hapo umesikia vizuri, kuna mahali imeguza. And for me, I think you should just like go. Like, I mean, because you realize that all these things, it's always about high, the next thing, coffee, nene, stories, you know. Because we human beings are emotional beings. There's always that kind of thing that made you guys get there.
I agree.
And it can always be sparked.
True.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then there are certain factors beyond your control that can happen. For example, disasters. You know, you just happen to meet you and your ex wako, maybe nothing was going on, and then you are meeting at a point when umetukanwa tu na chali yako sayo.
Asubuhi umeamkia vibaya.
And this guy is just there, hey, what's going on? Akipole, nini.
Napata shoulder to lean on.
Those are dangerous, those are what I call wolf moments.
Yeah, that's me as I mean.
So maybe it's better off not having that link that can lead you there in the first place.
Yeah. Hey, but there are more than 7 billion people in the world. Of all the friends that you can choose.
Your ex.
Hapo siko. Kusema kweli.
Exes remain exes.
Mimi natembea na power so nakata madaraja kabisa. Hakuna. Ile inadumu na kuchoma.
Are you declaring here that you are not friends with any of your exes?
I'm not.
Unajua wanakufuata na wanakusikia vizuri.
Kukufuata na kufuata lakini I think it's
He has declared it publicly.
what about that is for that I think what you do is, I mean, you imagine on the flip side. That's what I handle a lot of things, you know. You imagine the flip side.
And how would you
how
feel?
It makes you feel. Yeah. When you imagine that, how it makes you feel should determine how you live with it.
True.
Okay.
Makes sense. A lot of sense. Yes.
Una flip anything that you flip it first. Unasikia venye kana kuguza kwa roho. Unasikia kuna kauchungu, achana nayo.
Yeah.
That's the way to live with it, I would say. All right, straight into the conversation of the day. Tumeanza na hata naona Levi amekuwa very emotional. That's what it is. I think human relations are some of the most difficult things. We really underestimate how deep it is and how messy it can get, and how people have been damaged just by relationships.
That's true.
The people have been damaged for good, not just because of a relationship that went wrong or how they were handled and all that. Because it builds up. You know, we lie about it, but it builds up. Because the way it makes you. And you look at people, you have a relationship. So that is it. It's a common sense edition of the 7th of November 2022. We said on that note, but we get deep into the conversation and we talk about alcohol and addiction, substance addiction. And most of the time when you talk about alcoholism and substance addiction, we think about men. But sometimes also, like Caroline has said, sometimes even women. And we find it difficult to face it on that manner. Also, let me know very quickly, what do you think about the man out of Mechangamkia story, exes? What do you think about your exes? Should you retain exes? Should you keep friends and say, this is an ex of mine, but we are just friends? Kalitu Kamunya was my exes should remain exes. Daniel Kips, I think there must be secret in relationship. For example, if I ask my lady, how many men have you ever dated? Me, maybe 15 men. It will be my turn up. If I hear this, not me alone, but more percentage of men, ladies, keep some secrets, all right? Anything you say will be used against you in the court of our home is very true. It is testimony. Marlon, but from Kenyatta National Hospital, tell LEVI KONES I need his newly launched book, all right? It is no useless experience. You need to speak to Levi. You can inbox Levi directly. Karembo Edith, watching from Katundu, Kamwange, Tuko Assembly. Asante sana. Robert Williams, watching from 5th Avenue, Ngong. I have checked KAGIA on Google on a wellness program. I already took a number. We'll call her in the course of the day. People out here are struggling in addictions. Jane Mwembe, good morning. Morning to you, Jane. All right, Caroline.
Yes.
People drink. And, like, I'm not an addict. I just drink, and I should. wake up on a Friday, you drink on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, like, functional. You go to work on Monday. Or you're like, as I'm waiting for jam to Isha, let me just have 2 bottles of beer. At what point do you describe alcohol consumption as addiction?
We had a very interesting conversation with Levi recently. Just what you've said, it's like you've taken the words out of his mouth.
Oh, is it?
Addiction, that's how alcoholism begins. Just like you said, the Friday drink. Let me start with myself. That's how it began. Okay, well, not really, but somewhere along the way, it became a Friday drink because it's Friday, tomorrow is Saturday, there's no work. Then I was employed, gainfully employed. Friday becomes Saturday. Saturday, of course, there's no work. So you continue with your drinking spree, right? Then it becomes Sunday after church. You take your 2 bottles, then because you have to be home early, freshen up, sleep early because Monday is work. Then it becomes a Wednesday thing. There's a girls' night out. There's a hens' night. They used to be called hens' night. Are they still there? Hens' night. Then it becomes Tuesday because you want to sit inside the pub for 2 hours as you wait for 8 o'clock to beat the jam. At 8 o'clock, you're still imbibing. Before you know it, it becomes an everyday affair. Because, you see, the thing with addiction, any sort of addiction, whether it be, let me talk about chemical addiction, that is namely alcohol and drugs. There are stages. The first step is the social drinking, where you have a drink on Saturday, you've been invited for a wedding, a party, there's an event. Then from social drinking, you go to compulsive drinking. It's a one-off. There's a night somewhere, let's go and have this thing. Just 2-3 beers and we go home. From compulsive, it moves to habitual. Habitual is, there's a reason to drink any day of the week. My neighbor's cat died. So the cow in Shags died. You've been told the cow has died. You take a drink.
Shosho amemeza kijiko.
Bas. Shosho alifika 500 years amekufa tumemzika, we have a drink. There's always a reason to drink. So the cat crossed the fence. There's always a reason to drink. It's the last Tuesday of the month. Bas, let's go. It's Halloween. Let's go. Habitual. Then from there, from habitual to addiction, it's just a line that you cross. That's how most people get into addiction without even knowing. Many guys will say, I'm just a social drinker. Kwani, I have my 2-3 beers. When there's traffic here, I'll have a drink, then I go home. But by the time you're going home, you're staggering, you're drunk. In the morning, you have to send HR a message and say, you're not feeling well, can I come in a bit later? But it's because you're trying to nurse your hangover so you don't go in with a hangover. Those are the stages of addiction, of alcoholism. There's also a simple test I tell people to do, and it's called the KAGE test. CAGE. See if you want to know if you're in addiction or if you're on the way to addiction. It's called the KAGE test. CAGE. C stands for cut down. Have you tried cutting down of your level of alcohol intake and you've been unable? A stands for anger. Have you been angry at yourself or have people constantly been angry with you because of your levels of drinking? G stands for guilt. Do you feel guilty every time you go to open up your bottle of alcohol? There's like a guilt that comes that tells you don't do this, your inner voice. And E stands for eye opener or kutoa lock. Do you find yourself having to have a drink first thing in the morning because of the way you imbibed the night before? If you've answered yes to any of the CAGE, chances are you're already in addiction or you're on your way to alcoholism.
What was your experience like? I think sometimes it gives more perspective when someone speaks about their own experiences, how they got there. And one would also wonder, is it then a guarantee that any form of drinking translates to addiction? But even before you go to that clarification, we would want to hear out your story. Because sometimes we get perspective when we get to hear about someone's story.
My story is very long, but because of time, I'll try to keep it short.
This is a tackle.
All right. Well, thank you. I started drinking at the age of 19. Very interestingly, out of peer pressure. By the way, I'm the firstborn in our family. We are 5. I come from a Christian home. My parents were even elders in a certain mainstream church at some point in their active lives. And I'd never seen my parents drinking, though at some point in the 90s, I remember my early 90s, I would see my dad, before he got saved, he used to keep alcohol in the house for his friends and whatever. But I never ever once saw my dad drinking. I never even saw him. I hear he used to smoke. I've only seen on the pictures. I've never seen. So I got into alcoholism very in a very interesting way. And funny enough, now that I think about it, of late I've been remembering many things about my past. I remember I tried smoking, I think when I was in high school, because my brother, my immediate follower, started smoking quite early. So in those days, we used to have cows and hay at home. And there's a worker who we used to see rolling hay in a paper and then he smokes. So we once tried it with my brother. And of course, hay in paper is not worth it. So my mom was driving in and we tried to hide those things. My God, Gerald, see our pockets chomekad, our pockets burned. And so now here are children who are trying to run away from their mother with burning pockets. Suffice to say we were beaten like something else. So now moving to my drinking history. I did my O-levels, class of 98.
So did you end up smoking?
Yes, I smoked for 19 years, 19 straight years. Menthol, I was a menthol girl.
SM.
Sweet but man. Before that, when I had money, I was an embassy man. Name the international brands. That's who I was. So I started smoking at the age of 19 after I cleared my high school. I was in Limuru Girls' School, class of 98, for those who are trying to figure my age. That is when I cleared Form 4. Then I did 5 and 6. I was privileged to do Form 5 and 6 in a British school in this Nairobi. It was called Arboretum Sixth Form College next to State House. And the reason I did 5 and 6 was to make it easier for me to leave the country and go and study overseas. Not that my parents were rich, but being the firstborn, they had sacrificed a lot for me to get to that space so that I can open the door for the rest. And I remember in Form 2, I had told God, I will get married a virgin, never drink, never smoke. I am on my highway to heaven. In Form 2, this is where we make all the pledges. Most of the time, I don't know why Form 2. It's usually the make or break. So for me, I was dedicated and I'd said, I'll never do any of those things because I knew the kind of a life I wanted to live. And then I was also a very closed up person. Self-esteem issues, I'd carried self-esteem issues for a very long time since my childhood. I'd grown up feeling inadequate, for lack of a better word. So I get to Form 5 and I get culture shock, the real culture shock. I'm in a school with white people, Europeans, Asians, Africans. And
so ulimaliza Form 4 ukiwa sawa?
Nilimaliza nikiwa sawa, nimesimama kabisa.
Pamba.
Hallelujah. I was whiter than snow. Whiter than snow.
Whiter than snow.
Whiter than snow.
Imara kabisa.
Imara daima.
Imara kama simba.
Kabisa. So I joined Form 5. And now the culture shock is, I'm like, oh my goodness, what is this? I'm seeing people smoking. And I'm like, see, these are students like me. Why are they smoking over smoke break? Then you see even my lecturers used to smoke. And then I'm seeing even African girls who smoke. And that was for me the wow moment, because I'm like, I'm used to seeing girls smoking, but they are not black, and I see them on TV. And anytime, honestly, let me tell you, I had grown up in such a closed box, should I say, that even when I would see people smoking in town, I would get shocked. Because in our family, there was no one who was smoking apart from my brother who was trying funny things at the age of 16. Even those times when those 2 drinks that were sold in sachets, those Makalis in sachets, he's the one who discovered them.
Kina Safaya. Na wale wengine kulikuwa na area Uganda ilikuwa inaitwa aje?
Yeah, I remember Bond 7. I tried Bond 7.
You got such a TV.
Banana those ones. So me, I'm seeing, and then there's this girl in my class who wanted to be my friend, and I couldn't understand why, because this chick was hot, and she was popular, and me, I knew I was none of the above, or rather I thought I was none of the above. And she was a smoker, and she introduces me to my first cigarette, which was Embassy Lights. And I hated lights, so I moved to menthol. And I was hooked on menthol almost immediately. I loved that minty taste. And then I was a virgin, as much as I had read these books in high school, Mills and Boone, she was called Jackie Collins, those ones. They used to romanticize sex and the love making. Those were the words. It was never sex, love making. And so I knew when I get married, that would be the experience. Hallelujah. And her, she had broken her virginity at the age of 15. No wonder she was so generous, And here is Caro at the age of 19. Me, I'm getting married at 24, God willing, a virgin. I'm being deflowered by that man.
Mipango ya binadamu.
Hallelujah. Then there was a boy I liked in another international school, and she told me, if you sleep with this guy, I'll bring for you what? A bottle of wine.
Wow.
So, and let me tell you, peer pressure is real. It's not a joke. Me, you see, ever since I was small, I had always tried to fit in. And now here is this friend, and her friends look so cool, and I want to be part of them. So I'll do anything to fit into this crowd. So she tells me, if you sleep with this guy, I'll bring for you what? A bottle of wine. You can't be a virgin at the age of 19. So this boy had been my boyfriend for like a whole year, but in retrospect, we were like cousins or brother and sister. There was no sex, it was just hugging and kiss here and there. So I call up this guy, and this guy is in shock, okay? Because they were living in somewhere, let me not say where, because he came from a very prominent family. So
You might dress him.
So I don't even want to go there. So and this guy was like, really? You're sure? So hey, a virgin. I think in his head was like, this chick is a virgin. I'm actually going to deflower this chick. So we meet, and he books for a room in some nice hotel in Westlands. And we go and do whatever needs to be done. You people, my friend, those Mills and Boons, the writers are liars, bona.
Kwa ground vitu ni different.
Kwa ground vitu ni different, bona. But here I am, I've been deflowered. I'm feeling so guilty by the way, but I'm like, oh wow, anyway. Now at least I'll be part of the crowd, and I'll get my bottle of wine. So Monday I report, and she's so excited. You could think she's the one who was there in that room in Westlands that day, because it was not night, it was day. And she's like, okay, fine, I'll bring for you the wine. And truly, Tuesday she brought it. 250 ml, red wine, 12%. Caro has never taken alcohol. She tells Caro, now, because you've not taken alcohol, you need to take it slowly. And she's talking to me in an accent so that it checks in nicely into my brain. And she told me, you told me you have your own bedroom, so you'll open the window when you drink it because alcohol has a smell. And I put the alcohol in my bag. Say vibration. I'm vibrating out of excitement and fear because when I was in high school, I remember I'd been caught with a note, a 10-bob note. Those days we had 10-bob notes. So I'd been found with one in my diary, and I was beaten properly because I couldn't explain where it came from. Now I'm imagining, just by bad luck, if someone goes through my handbag and finds alcohol, what will I say? But you see, peer pressure once again. Caro really wants to fit in. And I go home, do my homework. Those days, news was at 8 o'clock. Guys, I've watched news. My other siblings have gone to bed. My folks are still around. Finally, the last one went to bed. Caro is awake. It's midnight. By the way, there's a reason they call midnight as the bewitching hour. That's the time people do crazy things. So me, I waited to see the light is off for my folks' room. And I checked and locked and relocked my door at least 3 times to make sure there's no blunder. In my head, I'm not remembering tomorrow is school. So I opened my window. I open the curtain kidogo, I sit on my bed, I take the first sip, which I hated. By the way, throughout my active addiction, I hated wine. Red wine, to be specific. I took the first sip, then I took a gulp. Then I remembered something my brother had told me earlier, that if you want to get high, you do a bend over so that the alcohol moves into your brain quickly. So I did the bend over thing. You guys, there was nothing happening in my head. So I finished the whole bottle, and I was sober. Then I put it in my bag and I went to sleep. In the morning, I woke up. I was so fresh. There was nothing. So I go to school and I tell this chick, what did you give me? She asks me why. I didn't feel anything. She told me you have a problem. And truly, that word problem followed me for almost 20 years. So I finished my A-levels. By the grace of God, I go to Eastern Asia. I was in Malaysia. My parents did a harambe for me.
So kurudia tena pombe at that point? After the wine?
Oh, I did towards the
end. After the wine?
In Form 6, after we finished. And now her and my boyfriend, we went to some club in Westlands, and I was bought for alcohol. There was this thing called Reds. I was bought for 6 cans of Reds, and the 6th one is what took me out, because I found myself on the floor. This time I was a very heavy smoker. Between Form 5 and Form 6, which was even less than a year, I was already doing up to a packet of cigarettes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So who taught you cigar? Just came early.
Cigar. My friend in Form 5.
The same one?
Yeah.
Who gave you one?
Yeah. I took mint, whatever. It was called what? Lights. I didn't like it. So I moved to Embassy Menthol. That is where I got stuck, because I loved that feeling. No one had to teach me. No, nobody teaches you how to do like this. You just watch, guys, and you kind of learn. And I'm a quick learner. So I was addicted to cigarettes between Form 5 and 6 in less than a year. I was doing 20 sticks. And so that was, now in Form 6, that was my first time to get drunk, because I remember waking up in their house and I was vomiting and all those side effects that come with drinking. And I'd said, never will I touch alcohol again. But like I say never, because what you negate has a way of coming back to you. So come January 2001, I leave the country. My parents have done a harambe. I go to study overseas. I'm supposed to do a degree in advertising, multimedia, and broadcasting. 2 years in Malaysia, 2 years in Australia. but I didn't even finish my first year in Kuala Lumpur because my drinking had escalated very fast. There's something in addiction we call tolerance, whereby if you are doing 2 beers, they're not getting you drunk anymore. So you need to do 3, 4 to get the same effect you were getting initially. Now, by now, I had moved from beer to hard liquor. And I loved hard liquor because the kick was just there. So now I was doing hard liquor. I was doing 2 packets of cigarettes, so 40 sticks plus marijuana.
Per day?
Yes. When I go out, you know. But me and marijuana, I didn't use marijuana for long, but I stuck to cigarettes for a long time. And hard liquor. And
marijuana and bangi.
Bangi. Yeah. So the way we see on Facebook, status complicated to kachana to. After 2 months, I quit weed. So my grades, of course, started suffering because I was not in class. And just the way you said, you know, the way people say, but I'm not a drinker. I mean, I only drink on Fridays. When I went to Malaysia, I only used to drink on the weekend. Then I realized this thing is actually fun. And there were Kenyans there who were idlers, my friend. Kenyans who are idlers. Any day is drinking day. Now I hooked up with these people. So we'd go to the club. Every day in Kuala Lumpur, there was a night. You know, Monday there's this night, Tuesday there's this night. I became those people. And my grades started suffering. And so what the lecturer started doing is that they would call back to Kenya to speak with my folks. And anytime I knew my parents would call me, I would be very sober so that we have a normal conversation and they don't suspect anything. But towards the end, it became so bad because my drinking escalated really fast. And I was involved in so many near-death experiences, almost raped, almost died in car accidents because I'm always traveling with people who are drunk. Towards the end of first year, November, I wrote back and I told my parents I want to come back because truly I had faced death severally. And I knew here if I die, I don't even know who will discover where I am because I lost any friendship I had formed. In that 1 year, they left me because they could see where I was headed. And yet I couldn't see it. So I come back to Kenya. And nobody thinks I have a problem. I don't think I have a problem. My parents don't think I have a problem. They thought I was just playing truant. So I joined the Kenya Institute of Mass Communication and air travel. So I did a double diploma in mass communication and advertising for 3 years. And I did very well, back to back, morning to night school. I was a good girl, joined the choir in church. I rededicated my life to the Lord and I knew this is the way, walk in it. In the last semester of college, I decided to become a boarder at Kenya Institute of Mass Communication. And that is where now it started again. I became a boarder. My roommates were all drunkards. They would go out on Friday, come back on Saturday. I used to sleep with a Bible in my bed. And when they come in with their drunken stupors, I would tell them, you people, get saved. Read the Bible. And they would abuse me. One Friday I said, let me just join these girls. And they were so shocked. So we took a cab from South B. There was a club in Kenya Cinema called Dodi's.
The famous Dodi's.
Dodi's. I was furniture there. I was furniture. I had a specific place when I started drinking again. So I went there to drink soda, innocently. Half liter, one. Then I drank the second one. Then I'm watching guys, I'm like, even me, maybe I want a little bit. So I tell my friend, just put for me a little bit of Guinness in my Fanta. And that was the beginning. We were in Dodi's from Friday. We left Kenya Cinema on Sunday. When people are going to church, that's when us we are going back to the hostels. I cannot explain the guilt and the shame I had because I couldn't even show up in church for choir. I am drunk for 2 days, slept it off, but that was the beginning of a journey that has taken me to almost literally to hell and back. It's been quite a journey. So then in 2005, I conceived my son, who is turning 17 next month. And as if that should have stopped me, put brakes on my drinking. My drinking now escalated because when my son was 4 months, I was privileged to get a job with one of the top media houses in Kenya. And so here I have it's called what? Predictable income. So with predictable income, and I was a salesperson. I was earning very good commissions. And I started disappearing from home. So I would leave my son with my parents and one of my younger sisters to take care of. And I worked with Citizen. So I quit. Citizen was the only job I was fired. Okay. Because they discovered I'm drinking a lot, and I would lie. I would lie that my son is sick, that's why I'm at home. Yet even my parents don't know where I am. My parents went to Citizen to look for me, only for them to be told by HR, Karo has not been seen here for 2 weeks. So that's how I got terminated. Funny enough, after 2 weeks, I got a job with another media house, international media house. I worked with CNBC Africa. So I was in and out of Kenya like anything else. Now my salary has tripled. Johannesburg has become like my second home. And with the tripling of my salary, my drinking escalates. But still nobody thinks I have a problem. Even I don't think. I'm thinking I'm just enjoying. Until in 2007, when my son got sick, he was admitted in hospital. My dad calls me. It was a Friday. I was in a club. There was a place, not a club. Is it a club or a bar? It was called Tanager. And my dad tells me, come to Gertrude. Your son is not feeling well. So I take a taxi. I go to Gertrude. And the nurse asks me to administer him medicine, and I can't. Because of them, my hands are shaking. And my dad was seated somewhere watching me. And he didn't say anything. He just looked at me. In Kikuyu, he told me, you just go back where you came from. We'll talk later. So instead of even feeling that guilt or remorse as a mother that my child is sick, I go back to the same bar where I was. And later, in that 2007, my dad wrote me a very long message. And he told me, Carol, you're sick. I've been watching you for years. You need rehab. But back in 2007, who even talked about rehab? Rehab was associated with mad people. But in hindsight, if you look at alcoholism really is a mental illness, because if I look back to the things I did in active addiction, I can't even do them now, because that is madness. That is temporary insanity. So my life continued like that. I started leaving jobs. I was never fired again, by the way. It would reach a point I get tired. I don't feel like working. I wait for my salary to check in. I leave. God was very gracious to me. I would always get a job, always. I never struggled to be employed somehow. I think maybe it's because of the gift of the gab, because I could sell and I could work, and I'm a hard worker. God has blessed me that way. So the culmination of alcoholism actually came in 2015, just after I conceived my daughter. That year, November 2015, we parted ways with the father of my daughter. And for good reasons. It was a very toxic relationship, very violent relationship. I had hospital records, police records, because of the violence involved in that relationship. So we broke off. Now here I am. I have left my last job. I've left my last job. That was the last job I ever worked, by the way. I worked in a top-tier law firm in Nairobi, and I just left it. I quit. And now here, I have ended a relationship that I knew had to end, but there's still that depression that comes with a broken relationship, because we had been together for about 7 years. And so now here I am, jobless, single parenting. My money is running out because my drinking, in fact, after we broke up, I started drinking even more. Now, after we broke up, I moved from high-end alcohol to low tier, these cheap things that you see people drinking for 150 bob. That is what I started drinking. Even my cigarettes, I moved to cheap cigarettes for like 5 bob, because I had to smoke. Well, then I saw now here, because I realized at that point, I'm sick. But still, there must be a way out. I've always been a fighter. There must be a way out. So what did I do? I found a Shylock in Matasia, because I used to live in that area. And he became my friend. So I'd tell him, come do your homework in my house and see what you can take. The guy came to my house and said, what? Because I was living in my own house. My dad is a developer. He had given me and my kids a home. He said, what? He looked around. He said, hey, unataka nichukue nini ya kwanza? Kwani unaenda wapi? I told him, I'm going to Dubai. The fridge, imagine, was the first thing to go. My fridge went for 4,000 bob. Like that.
4,000 bob?
4,000 shillings.
Ulikuwa unanunua pesa ngapi?
I don't even remember. It was about 30-something.
Wow.
Shylocks are Shylocks. They are mean people.
So that 4,000.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you see Shylocks, they ride on your desperation. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they ride on your desperation. And that's why Levi, you said they'll never go to heaven.
Shylocks are not going to be in heaven.
So he took my fridge.
They won't be there.
My 7-seater for 60K went for 5K. Sawa.
Wow.
And those things, let me tell you, my fridge and my 7-seater went at the same time. And that weekend, my son was around. My son used to wonder, Mommy, he was too young to understand. He used to ask me, Mommy, where are the seats? Where's the fridge? Then I would start crying. And there's this relation between boys and their moms. And my son would just buy into it. Kumbe, with the money I've gotten, the 5K and the 4K, now I have 9K. What did I do? I took my children where? To the hub, Karen, to make them feel good that their mother is not.
At least they enjoy it.
They enjoy it. So then when they're in the place playing games, my daughter.
But you wise, unapeana fungu la 10 kwa watoto wao. Alafu ndo swage.
Na hiyo pesa sio pesa huko.
Hakuna pesa hub, huko hakuna kitu. Now they have sat. Now I still had a nanny, so the nanny is with my baby, my daughter, and my son is in that place, the play place where they play PS and all those things. Mi nimeenda kutafuta pombe, my friend. That they had carried a big bag, so my bag is full of booze. So them as they're entertaining themselves, even me, I know jioni aki yao ile pombe nitawasha kwa hiyo nyumba.
Shere.
Bas kabisa. But and I felt like I was trying to make up for something. I was not sure what it was. We had fun, we ate well, we went home, we are sitting on the floor.
Vitu zimeenda.
Tumeketi kwa floor. My son was in a boarding school. He was still in primary, but he was in a boarding school. So Monday, I return him to school. The next thing to go, I call Aaron. Aaron, wherever he is, he's my friend on Facebook now. I told him, ebu kujia hiyo gas cooker. Yes, mi sasa hata kama mnaenda Dubai, kwani utakuwa unapika na nini? Kamwambia we kuja.
Even the Shiloh is hesitant.
Even him.
He's worried about you.
Yeah. The house girl used to ask questions mpaka she stopped asking. So nini imekuja, Aaron amekam amechukua gas cooker. In its place, what did I buy? You know those two small green stoves, tuletwa kerosene for 3 sok. Ndio hiyo sasa. The house girl reached a point, she told me, "Ai mama nani, mimi vile naona, mimi wacha tu niende."
Mambo iende.
Wacha mimi niende. Because she used to see me, and sometimes I would hear her crying in her room. And I would wonder, is she crying or is she praying? But because of the guilt, I numbed even myself to words. I didn't want to know what's going on. So when she said she wants to go, I released her and she went. Now it is me and my daughter alone. Now here I even sink into depression further. Now I'm alone. My son is in school. And whenever my son is at home, we fight physically like cats and dogs. Because him is trying to protect himself from a crazy mother. I never knew. I'd already reached that point of psychosis. Psychosis is whereby you do things that ordinarily you would not do. So my son would sleep with a knife under his pillow. I never knew until years later. And the mornings that he would wake up, and then, like now he's big, that guy, I can't touch him. Even if I wanted, I would see fire. Oh my God. I can't try. There are days my son would wake, like those are 31st, he found me smoking. And apparently I was so violent on him, I tried to beat him up. There were marks on his body the following day. I couldn't believe it. And it was me. I cried. And these were real tears. I was so remorseful. But the guy would sleep with a knife under his bed trying to protect himself, you see. So now, my house girl has gone. Me, I've sunk into depression proper. But I still need to drink. I'm selling things, my handbags, my shoes. Towards the end, Aaron told me, once he even brought me a bottle of Smirnoff, 750. He told me, Karo nakuja. Najua kulangi siku hizi, wacha nikuja na pombe. Kamwambia we kuja. The same Shylock who is selling things, we sat on my floor. Oh, by the way, carpet ilienda na suombili. So, we have sat on the floor in my house. He's asking me, Karo, si wachana na pombe. Hii kitu inakuua. I'm telling me wachana na mimi. Si nilikwambia naenda Dubai. Dubai gani wewe? Wewe kweli unaenda Dubai? Kweli? Haya, continued like that. On his way out, he told me, "Ai Karo, na hizi milango ya nyumba yako ni poa."
Ati nini?
Milango ya nyumba yako ni poa. Nikamwambia, "Ai kweli." I was living in a 3-bedroom house, own compound, well manicured lawn. Thanks to my dad. Okay. Sawa. Me, I have my alcohol in the house. Any corner, by the way, I go in my house, any corner, there's alcohol. Name it. Any corner, even in the toilet, the way you open the toilet up there, inside, where you flush that bowl, there is alcohol. My house had become very dark. I had covered every window, every mirror with dark things. I never wanted to see myself. I never used to shower because there's a thing, walevi hawagangi, mi sijui kwa nini.
Reach a point that
I never used to shower.
It's too much work.
Yeah, just the
first time ya pombe.
Now by the imagine moto, all I need to do is remove my clothes, enter the shower. And Roland's became my friend, and me, I've hated Roland for years because Roland now reminds me of my dark days. So the only thing so Aaron, I call him one day. No, I send him a please call me. Kamwambia kuja haraka. Him and his pick up as usual. Funguanisha hizi milango zote kwa nyumba. They were made of MDF boards. Strong wood. Akafunguanisha zote for a measly 500 bob.
Jesus.
So if you were to
walk the whole lot.
Everything. He had seen Shylock's see your desperation. And he knew me, the only thing I want that money for ni kutoa lock.
Milango zilikuwa ngapi? Milango zilikuwa ngapi?
I don't know. 3 bedroom, the main door for the sitting room, ya kitchen, ya huko nyuma.
Toilet.
There were many. Because he had to make 3 trips. He made 3 trips. Now, so if you walk into my house... 7 doors for 500. So in short to lose at 10 bob. Hata sijui. So to walk into my house, there's no knocking. Just checking.
Directly.
Yeah, just enter.
Did you even put a barrier?
Yeah, Nini. I wish you know, but you've been there. You understand it. Let me tell you.
There's even no time to.
You know, alcohol and depression are brother and sister. Okay? Me, where I had reached, the only thing now that was remaining is to take my own life.
Carol, uliuza milango 500 bob.
Oh, you seem to be stuck there.
That thing has really
I'm just trying to do that calculation.
That is how low alcohol can take you. Let me tell you. You see, even these people you see sleeping on the road, Juya Pombe, Abu check into their history. These are people who have all come from somewhere. Somebody just does not become an alcoholic overnight. It's progressive.
I say that all the time.
It is progressive. Yeah. People say, unaweza acha ukitaka. I tried. The day I said I'm not going to drink, the withdrawals that I got, I can't remember how I walked to the wines and spirits. Just even telling that lady, nieke nikiwa nimesimama hapa. Nieke na maji, iteremke. Ndivyo nisikie mwili imerudi form. Immediately I took that shot. I felt it's like my muscles had a chanad. It's like sparks just went off and my body went back.
It's like an injection of something fresh.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
It's a very bad place to be.
So the way people say unaweza acha ukitaka, many people are not able. For me, what I'd read, I'd even gotten a buyer for my passport. I was told you can get a buyer for passports. I'd found one. A Nigerian wanted my passport for 10K. But there's a reason I held on to that passport. I've still never understood until why. Maybe it's because I love travel. And so I'd say no, because where we had reached, my son had been taken away by my parents because we used to fight. It was bad. My daughter, I had stuck with my daughter. I'd said, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to give out my daughter for adoption. And I was ready. I had said I was going to give my daughter out. I'd already bought poison. I'd bought rat. I take rat na hiyo story ishe. I was ready. Then something kept reminding me of my Christian background. You know, there's even the Bible, the way it says, train up a child in the way they should go, and when they're older, they will not depart from it. Me, I've grown up in church. So I could imagine, I leave all these troubles I have on this planet to go and face others, wherever, forever and ever and ever. I said, Apana.
It's very interesting you say that, because even me, the only thing that stopped me from suicide is yes, the fear of hell.
Yeah, that fear is real.
I even say guys who commit suicide are very brave guys.
That's the same
if you can
thing I say.
overcome the fear of hell,
are
you going?
Yeah. I mean, I knew I can't leave this world. And there must be a little energy to fight another day. And let me tell you, that morning, the day I was going to commit suicide is the day I opened my curtains for the first time in I don't know how many months. I removed everything I had covered my windows, my mirrors with, and I looked at myself square. As ugly as I was, as old as I felt I was, because alcohol makes you feel old. When you take it progressively over
ages you.
It does. I could feel it. I could even feel my body organs were aging. I was tired, I was weak, I felt weary. I said no. I sent my dad a please call me. By this time, he's the only one who is responding to my please call me. Because anybody else would call me, they would have to part with at least 1,000 bob. I would give them some other sob stories that would even wake the dead. Okay? So my dad called me and he told me, and I told him I want to see you. He didn't ask me if I have fare. He said, you know where we live, you come. I put my baby in the carrier bag, walked all the way home. I told my dad, I need help. He said, finally, this is 2017. He says, finally, after all these years, you decided you need help. Yes, what do you want? I want to go to rehab.
That was after how many years?
10.
But first he had come to your place.
He had come. He came to my place. He walked in. He walked, you know.
Wow, majestically.
He walked in. He looked around. Me, I'm high. He's finding alcohol bottles. He's finding cigarettes. He's telling me, don't even hide them. I've seen. He asked me first, where's the baby? I said, she's somewhere in the compound.
Sure.
Then in Kikuyu, where are the doors? Then he asked me, then he walked in every room in the house. He's whistling now. her fridge. Haite. Where are the chairs? Were you auctioned? I said I was not auctioned. Where are the things? I said I sold them because I don't have money. He looked at me in a look that I can't really I don't know how to put it, but it was such a sad stroke, disappointed stroke, disgust stroke. I give up. Then he told me, Jerry, you are named after my mom, and I loved my mom so much. And you're not going to go down like this. You're not going to die. God has always been there for you. I've always prayed for you. You need to come out of this thing. He didn't even bother looking for the baby. He just entered his car. He walked out as usual, entered the car and left. And the following day is when now I sent him a please call me and told him I need to see you. And that is when now I looked for a rehab and I ended up in rehab. I went in voluntarily. And that I think was the best time in my life because let me tell you, the way you hear me speaking now, by the time I was checking into rehab in 2017, February, I'd forgotten how to speak. You know why? I had become a closet drinker. I had cut myself off from all my friends. The only person I had to talk to was the mama in the liquor store and my baby who could not talk.
And also Aaron. Yeah,
and Aaron. And Aaron, I only talk to him when I'm drunk, when I have withdrawals. I had completely forgotten how to speak. Honestly, it can reach a place where your brain starts to shut down. I think that is where mine was. I entered rehab. I couldn't even talk. I can't explain it. I had forgotten how to talk. When I got into rehab, I rededicated my life to Christ. For some reason, I just became, forget even my addiction story. Even before checking into addiction or whatever, I was not a speaker. I didn't know I had the ability to speak. It was not in me. I didn't know it was there. Until I checked into rehab, whatever happened. I came out a day to my 37th birthday. And that's when I formed my initiative. I studied addiction as a profession. That is when I became a certified addictions therapist. And I formed my initiative, KAGIA Wellness Initiative, that assists those who are struggling with alcoholism and also wellness-related issues such as depression, anxiety, fear, rejection. Those are things we don't talk about, but things like fear are real. Those are strongholds in life. Rejection is real. Rejection may be from somewhere in your childhood. You had a parent who was maybe emotionally unavailable, so you always felt you couldn't connect with them. These are things that we suffer silently, but we don't talk about them. And that's when I started this, speaking to people on these matters. That's years later, I wrote my book. And today I am here with Gerald and Levi. I should also point out that the reason why my initiative is passionate about women is because I know the things that we undergo that we don't speak about. For example, I've had 2 miscarriages back to back because of alcoholism. The first miscarriage was so bad it almost killed me. I stayed with a bleeding fetus for 2 months because I didn't have the money to have it removed. These are things we don't talk about. It was not an abortion. It was a miscarriage, but I didn't have the money to have it surgically done. I had to look for that money for 2 months. I stayed with a bleeding fetus. The second miscarriage happened back to back with the father of my daughter. My daughter is alive today by the mercies and the graces of God. A bright girl, brilliant, going far in Jesus' name. So, women are affected differently with alcoholism. And many still are hiding their heads, burying their heads under the sand. Yet it is something we are tackling every day. I speak in schools. Girls nowadays have reached a point where they're putting tampons in vodka. So you wear the vodka-laced tampon to get high. You see? That's where we have reached as a nation. And so I'm so passionate about this because if we don't address this now, I don't know what kind of a generation we are going to have, if there'll be a next one. We are in a bad space when it comes to addiction, especially amongst women.
You're shocked.
I don't know what to say. So
I wish we could say that Caroline's story was a one-off. But if you just walk around, it is not.
It's true.
People will tell you stories, even guys who are listening. And we have reached a point where alcoholism is no longer a thing of, it's like what we used to say about HIV and AIDS. You're either infected or affected.
It's true.
We are there. Yeah. If you look in your family, there's someone. If it's not your brother, it's your cousin. If it's not your cousin, it's your uncle. If it's not your uncle, it's your aunt. Maybe it's your child. I will not tell you, like me, I wrote this book and I wrote about my issues with addiction, and I can't tell you how many calls I've gotten on the issue of addiction alone. Oh, I wrote about other things. Oh, cancer, people call me, good book, good story, blah, blah. Only you are deported from the US. But on addiction, wow. Every week I'm talking to someone, a parent. I'm even talking to another lady right now who has a 33-year-old daughter. Completely taken over by alcohol. Bright girl. A neurosurgeon.
Oh.
You know, if you go to the rehabs, you'll find that people who end up with addiction issues are not idiots.
Yeah.
Talented. As we were coming, she was telling me how she's a pianist as well.
Oh,
from the age of 6. I was like, hey, talented people are taken over, and we are watching it and doing nothing about it. Every time I drive around, I'm always like on the lookout for clubs, things, I always look at the parking lots. And I tell myself, who are drinking? The people who are drinking are so young. In another 10 years or so, we are going to be talking about an epidemic that we cannot be able to control.
I agree.
And it's happening already. If it's not happening, look, in the home, it's already affecting us in terms of how people are relating to each other. Like I told you, alcohol amplifies. So you're an angry person, you're going to end up doing something very crazy that you'll regret to your wife, to your child, to your people in the house. At work, it'll affect the workforce. How many HRs can tell us they have how many people who are drunk, disorderly, spoiling company property, getting into accidents with company vehicles, not showing up for work because those are resources. Dying of liver cirrhosis and car accidents and things that are preventable. It's happening already even in the workplace. Then we look at the country as a whole. It's already affecting us. Yeah. We've got a youth population that is so into the whole tujibambe thing, tupewe, piga sherehe, all type of things, that all focus is geared towards soft life. Even those boys who are watching, wale vijana walikuwa sijui ati wanatapeli watu. Guys want money. They go tapeli people. You remember those ones that were killed? Yeah. Kina Obegi and
yes,
How did they use their money? Diani, sijui Mombasa. Kujibamba tu. Some others even dug a hole and went to steal from a bank. Brilliant chaps. Ended up in a bank safe. I think they got 50M or something. But how are they caught? Sherehe in Mombasa. We are doing so many things with the end goal being
alcohol.
Yeah. We just want to have a good time. We just want to show people that we have made it. And that's already a sign that we are already headed for a major disaster. And we look at me, I always, every time I come to the tackle, I'm always going against government and government institutions for this particular reason. If this thing is not taken seriously enough, it is worse. We keep on talking about, the youth need jobs. The youth are unemployed. The youth need something to do. But how are we going to get them to stay in those jobs? It's not just enough. Alafu, the problem is it's slid and hid under the carpet. Pastors will tell you how many kids they have in addiction. Chini ya maji, we don't want to shame the family. Or those families that are, prominent, or, they have a name to protect. They won't say. They'll be quiet. So we are keeping it simmering uko chini as we are hoping that maybe we'll remove demons, we'll cast away mambo ya shetani. And there's a point for prayer. That's fine. No problem. But there's also a point for us to have a serious discussion on our attitudes to alcohol. And where do they start? They start right there where we are seeing them. We still have bars that are open very late. We are open very early in the morning with no regulations. We've got children who can access alcohol. We've seen it in school kids. They are uniformed kids who are going and getting drunk early in the morning. And, we have seen them and laughed about it. We even saw it during the pandemic.
There's even a video of students drinking in a bus.
We have. During the pandemic, we had parents who gave out their houses to kids to have house parties and stuff like that. And, basically have abdicated their responsibility to other people to do. And then those kids influence somebody else, or somebody else comes to their home and does that. We've got bars that do not have ethics. You see, the thing is this. There's no problem with operating a bar. Operate a bar how much you want. But if you have a customer who is your customer, who you love, you want to see tomorrow, and they have come and they have drunk so much, developed countries will stop someone and say, you've had too much. True. Here, we will not. In fact, what do? We are going to make sure that we open the bar for you. We're going to close the doors and keep you inside. We'll make moves to make sure that you continue drinking quietly so that you're not disturbed. We have a very different attitude towards alcohol in this country.
Tell you will soundproof your apartment.
Yeah.
We have some proprietors who told client, don't worry.
And the conversation needs to start there, because it's all fun and games until it is your child in addiction. If you ask parents, I wish you could talk to parents who have had a child, like your dad, like my parents, like other people's parents who have taken a child to rehab, and the agony that it is taking them through. You know, nobody has a desire. Me, I'm a parent now. I don't desire that I have my children in my home in their 30s. I don't desire that I'll be looking for them like little babies, taking them to Nini and trying to get them out of something that I might have presented earlier. You know, if they are sick and they have cancer, different story. Who knows? Mambo ya Mungu, act of nature, what have you. They're sick. But something you think you could have controlled. This started with something they put in their mouth. Oh. It's such a bad epidemic. Now, wale watu wanakala na wabianga, I'm telling them again, wake up. Don't just earn salaries and go for tea parties and take tea mandazis and talk about drugs and alcohol and just have a good time traveling and
also drink the alcohol.
Enjoying allowances.
After the conference, they'll drink.
I mean, God has put you on this earth for something. It can't just be to make money and buy houses and buy cars. It can't be. It has to be something more than that. Because even when we buy these houses and the cars, and by all means, do that, you must leave an impact. What is yours? What is yours? You're not going to take your house down, but you will take something. If they say levy, because of Levi's
milango.
Yeah, because Carol spoke about selling doors and it changed someone's life. Do you know it will outlive her?
Yeah.
It's a story that can change someone 50 years from now, 30 years from now. And we have to start thinking from that, 100 years from now, because, you know, given all factors constant, in 100 years, we are all not here. What will we have left?
They're shocking. It will not be here.
Yeah, it's very sad. I was watching a movie, by the way. It's
very sobering.
It's very sobering. I was watching a movie, Jana, of First World War. Some kids from Germany who went to the World War, born in 1880. 1880s and 1890s, going to the World War. And I was watching how those kids, right, how they ended up going to the war and how they were shot and how they died by 1922 there. Then I was asking myself, hey, 1977. I'm in the 2000s. Do you know, these things are so... Look, we are watching about a movie that for them may not be too long ago. But imagine the world is changing. All of us are moving. It's a conveyor belt. Kesho atuko, another guy... And for some of us, death is coming sooner than we expected. But what are we going to leave behind? You know.
But now, so where is the turnaround? Because it looks like we are continuing again to normalize the culture of alcoholism and drug abuse, and also the culture of, every other person now thinks it's cool to either come with a club in a neighborhood, to know the latest kind of alcohol. You see, these days, and someone takes a picture with a very nice whiskey on Instagram, we're like, this guy's mad it. Where's a turnaround on alcoholism? And is there a light of the end of tunnel, or it's an oncoming train?
It's hard for us to have a turnaround for people who are like me and you. We have to go back to the earlier stages. We have to go back to high school. We have to, as we put high schoolians, high school tunaambianga, I see them coming all the time to my workplace. So wanakuja kuona sijui studio inafanya namna gani. Wako kwa school trip. Wameenda sijui orphanage. Wameenda sijui wapi. Waende pia rehab.
Waende rehab.
As part of school, because if we don't start early, these trees, they bend early. Eh? For those of us who are a bit older, we can just give information. Okay, we're not too far gone until we cannot change. But it's better for us to start early, because generational changes start with those that are young. For us to move complete generations from one thing to another. I mean, William Ruto is talking about the saving culture. He has to target young people. And people who are in their 40s, 50s have never saved a shilling. It's not about to change. They're even annoyed at that story. But if you target the young people, then you make a generation the same way. The youth are used for good. They can be used for bad. They can be used for complete changes. And not only do we do that, we also begin to bring that conversation even to the table. The conversation of what you call responsible alcohol drinking has never really been had in this country. It's there as a line on our nini. Oh, drink responsibly. Alcohol, too much alcohol can kill you. But it's just a line. What's drinking responsibly? Just go to our bars. How many guys have 2 beers and they walk away?
And how do you know that it's responsible?
How do you know?
I don't know how many is responsible. Maybe they should recommend. So maybe you can only have 2 beers.
And the same way we take them to rehabs, we have to take them also to the hospital. Waende kwa wards waone what accidents can do. They go and see what liver cirrhosis can do. If we do not start by instilling something different in our young people in terms of the excesses, then we will not have a change. Because the change has to start at the youth level. Because if we don't start it at the youth level, then we will lose the entire generation altogether. And government has to be, and what do you call those people in the education sector, those guys who are in the know-how, must open themselves alive to things like that. There is too much focus on motivational speaking. Oh, I started with my business with 1 bean.
I started my chicken farm with 1 feather.
Okay, good for you. You started with 1 feather. But we also need to focus, as we talk on motivational speaking, we are going to schools. Karo amesema ataenda kwa mashule. This conversation must be had in schools because all of us tested alcohol, possibly in high school. I did, she did. If we go to other rehabs and ask them, on a general, when did you first test alcohol?
High school.
High school. Hapo ndio noma inaanza. And some high schoolians testing are firmly on the road to addiction. Some guy may test and say, never again, and thank God they exit that door and exit that highway and never come back. Some other guys, they enter that highway, they are in. They're back again. Before we know it, they're 40. They've been smoking for the last 34 years. If we don't have that as even a subject matter, then it changes nothing. Then we keep on having these discussions. We'll have them when we are 50. We'll have them when we are 60. We'll complain about what is coming with the next generation. The next generation, nothing will change.
Carol, you mentioned about the trend of women being the new addicts on drug abuse, and especially alcohol. What do you think is informing that new trend of women getting hooked to drugs?
I believe it's just the stresses of life. And then apart from the stresses of life, it's calling it a season is not the word, but we are just in that space where women think they can drink and get away with it, for lack of a better word. That's why when you go out, you'll find women are the ones who are even seated at the counters nowadays, enjoying their drink. They're drinking even the big brands. These chamas that women like attending, these girls' nights out, and these are the things that honestly are breaking homes, if you ask me. I'm not married myself, but I've seen it has broken homes that I know. With these chamas where you go drinking, you drink the whole night, your hubby's already home, you've not checked in, and when you check in, you're not exactly in a state to have a normal conversation because you had one too many. You see? And these uninformed decisions are leading to breakage, marriage breakups. Children also are in trouble because, it's bad enough having an alcoholic of a dad, but when you have a drunk mom as well, the kids don't know who to look to anymore. So for women, we are worse off. I think, honestly, if we were to put men and women on the same scale, I'd say it would be better even for the men to drink than for women to get involved or to be in that space whereby, you're the homemaker. We are the homemakers at the end of the day. And I say this from experience, surely, truly, we are the homemakers. So if you are the alcoholic, and I talk to men also who, men don't drink, the husbands don't drink, it's their wives who are drinking. That is such a paradox and such an irony in itself. And the men don't know what to do because they are feeling ashamed. So, and then women nowadays in the workplace, it's also become a tragedy. I know women who carry alcohol in their bags. They put it in their 10 o'clock black tea or black coffee to feel like, their bodies are working. But in hindsight, you're really just destroying yourself. So I would say that just the same way men are doing it is the same way women are doing it. It's only that for women, it becomes much worse with time, All
right. Boniface Oko are quite touched at a personal level with calling KAGIA's informative story. The cage A test is one that has sent me to reflection. Daniel Korir, penye zema ataokoka, mwili yote inaokoka. Sawa. Evalesta quiet. Karo aenda claim do zake. Oh no, that wasn't right. Right.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah. Even me, I think that was not right.
Hey.
Unajua saa zingine hata unaona hata kama ni biashara. Unajua unafanya mpaka unakaa chini kwa kona unasema hapana.
Guys,
Because actually I think that person was taking advantage of you.
But he was, and he knew it. You see, and after I left rehab, in fact, he sent me a friend request.
Anajifanya anasema Karo, hii kitu itakuwa, lakini kunywa hii smile.
Na anajua pale ataziuza pesa mingi sana. But you see, when somebody can sense your desperation, it's a very dangerous place to be. If someone can sense your desperation, my goodness, they have the upper hand. And there's nothing you can do about it. Because if I didn't sell my stuff to Aaron, where would I get money from drinking? I was not those people who go selling their bodies for the sake of getting 1, 2, 3 favors. Never have been. So it was, for me, I knew I have stuff I could sell.
I mean, I know that the reason why I say these people won't see heaven is because they are everywhere. Go to any village.
Yeah.
Utapata mtu ananua blanketi, sufuria. Me, there was a time one of my siblings sold stuff and we ended up catching we had to go and arrest the fellow buying bana. Unanua sufuria. Na unanua blanketi. Yani you know what? Those guys have a wide repertoire. They don't even specialize on anything. They'll buy even a remote. Tomorrow they buy a cup.
And they'll get a buyer.
They buy a chicken.
And they'll get a buyer.
They've got no issue. Wanasema tu leta. Wewe unaona kuna nini huko? Kuna bulbs, nini leta hizo.
They'll take everything and leave you high
They'll
and
take
dry.
everything.
Nata ukimwomba 50 bob.
Ezekupea.
He cannot give you.
And then the alcoholics find it's like the Shylocks can sniff out the alcoholic and the desperation she's saying. The alcoholic can sniff out Pombe anywhere. As in drop him here. And he will find the cheapest place for booze here you've never heard about, Gerald.
Wow. All right. I mean, I personally, I hate Shylocks, that has to be honest, because I've dealt with them before.
Yeah, Shylocks.
They're not the nicest people.
And kama Kashimo too. Kashimo in our bottom.
And squeeze, some of those Shylocks have got GST names, eh? They're no longer Shylocks some of them have come as credit facilities.
Oh, yeah.
They even have billboards. You don't see, you can always tell. You guys are asking you for your logbook for a 6-hour loan, chap. No, man.
Oh, those are Shylocks. I am not bothered.
Those are now Shylocks in suits.
The easiest way to lose your things actually is to go that route.
Yeah. So anyway, for me, I think that's
if you want to lose anything.
Yeah.
I think of going to Angisha, whatever it is. That thing of story, if you want to lose it, just anything you want to lose. Even if you want to lose now, Levi. Did you go to birth certificate again?
And you know,
that's how it's gonna go.
The funny thing is that step down, eh? Let's say you are earning 500,000 shillings. Si utaanza na huyo Shylock kwa billboard.
Ukiteremka pole pole.
Utateremka chini pole pole. Trickle down, utateremka chini pole pole. You will end up at the Shylock
at the bottom bar.
At the bottom one, the one who buys soaps.
Pass your socks.
Hata akiongea na wewe anakuongelesha na madharau.
And the shoulders and stiff. And at the same time, your consumption also is shukaing also. Utaanza kwa mahenesi na mavitu. Utashuka.
Umesikia Karo na maembasi.
Utaingia konyagi.
Kidogo amaanza kupiga.
Ulivuta roster?
I tried, it was too strong.
I remember that one. O ile tumbako ya kunini?
Kiraiko.
Kusokota. No. Me, I'm telling you, mine was, by the time I was going to rehab, the 6 months prior to rehab, I had really indulged. It's like I wanted to die. You know, I think unconsciously we have a death wish and we don't know. I think for me, I had. Because like 6 months prior to my checking into rehab, I had drunk. There's a shamba where, there was a kashamba next to my place. So that's where I used to throw the bottles. Wow. And the ones that I was able to throw, because I had those black bags, there's a truck that used to come and pick trash on Tuesdays. So I would remove my trash very late at night so that in the morning, my kids don't hear the banging of bottles. And even the truck guys, when I would give them, you know, the way they throw things onto the lorry, because they know they're throwing just things, food and whatever. Yeah. They would hear bottles. And you could see they would look at me funnily. It's me who'd sense they're looking at me funnily. Twice I did it. Then eventually, of course, I checked into rehab. My dad told me he went to that shamba. He took a picture because now they were in a gunia, the ones that had not been able to get rid of. And he said no. So he called somebody, one of his people. They just wanted to count the bottles. So even any of his workers who had suspected they have a problem, now they confirmed. He said they counted 800 bottles.
Wow.
Please, I was not living with any man. There was nobody else who was drinking where I live because we're living in a gated community. I had taken 800. Those are the ones that I had not been able to get rid of in a span of 6 months.
Just imagine that. Na hizo ni bottles za vitu cheap, sindio?
I can't even name some of those brands. The owners might come running after me on my social media handles.
And you know something, Gerald, squeezy, there are those brands that are so adulterated. They've given some ethanol, they've given some what. Someone takes one and they're so high. And there are so many. You know, people ask, okay, wines and spirits are so many. Sindio? Bongo la biashara, blah, 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 blah. But a lot of the wines and spirits are selling bottom-end products.
Yeah.
If you go to easy, vitongoji duni, go find out whether you'll find something high-end ukondani. You won't.
And even some of these brands, let me tell you, even some of these brands, you could take, maybe today, buy one brand in these wines and spirits, and I go and buy the same brand in a different wines and spirits. I might find in these wines and spirits, this brand I took, the same brand, I didn't get drunk. But when I buy it, the same brand in a different wines and spirits, in an Ipeleka Mbio. It's the same brand, but it's called what? Adulterated. Yeah.
Kariobangi Industries.
My goodness.
They want the cottages and industry.
It's very...
I was in Embu on Monday, and there was a place I was shown where they're making these cheap things, and they are being made in another man's home. You should see the house of that man. It's my God, it's a dynasty. But he's making cheap brews in his compound and selling them for 100 bob. The people in Embu, in that particular place, are so stuck because once you drink, you keep finding yourself going back to that place to buy the alcohol. Imagine, at 100 bob. They have tried, the local county government in that place has tried getting a hold of this man. I think money has been poured. But the guys in that area are stuck on that particular thing he's selling at 100 bob. This epidemic is real, guys. We shouldn't joke with this thing. And especially now as we head towards the festive season, it's only going to get worse.
Eric Mutai is crying. He's asking, where are the doors? The tears.
The doors.
I felt.
The doors went 5 years, 6 years ago.
with the doors.
You guys need to move on from the doors.
He has cried.
I moved on from the doors.
I know another guy who also sold doors. By the way, he's a friend of mine. I don't think he'd mind me telling his story. He's a professor at Kabrak now. He was a professor.
You need to speak to him.
He sold. I should bring him here to come.
Because,
he sold also doors and windows.
There's one thing I believe in. I believe that conversations change a lot. The more we speak about these things, I mean, the more we help in fixing all these things. Because people do things because sometimes people do things because there's no narrative, there's no story on what it can do until it's you. Yeah, it's being done on. Yeah. So
and even companies should stop firing people. It's been such a heavy issue on my mind and in my heart that companies should have these engagements whereby they invite people to speak to their employees on matters related to substance use and wellness. Because those people you keep firing every time, you are firing the top cream of your organizations are the ones who are struggling with this thing. Even in the Bible, it is written, the devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy. If you go to rehabs, like Levi has said, you will find people, professors, doctors, engineers, guys who are doing very well in the organizations. But because the organizations have failed to address this matter at the workplace, it brings a problem.
It's such a circle.
They should invite people to speak and teach the employees. It's nothing to be ashamed of. I mean, when you enter elevators in companies on Mondays, those lifts are smelling of booze too. Who is smelling of booze? It's the people you've employed to work for you. Yeah. Why don't you have people who can speak to your people about such things? You never know. You might be saving a life today and tomorrow. Now, as we head towards Christmas, December is around the corner. These are issues that need to be addressed so that by the time you're going to indulge over the festive season, you're going with your eyes wide open. Not that you have not been told. And now you're hearing it from people like Levi and I who have gone through it. We are not sharing our stories because of book review. We have lived it. And there's a reason we are alive today, to help people and to speak to people and to try and encourage people. If you're already in that mess, get out, seek help. If you're toying around with the idea, don't. Because addiction, alcoholism, like I say, is not a spectator sport. It's also a family disease. It's not a one-man show. It involves everybody in the family.
True.
At one point or another. Everybody will get addicted, just like you. They'll get addicted to your behavior. You're missing from home. Kila mtu alali, wanatafuta Levi. Levi alienda wapi? His mteja alienda wapi? But they know it's because of the problem that you're having. So now you've pushed everybody into your problem. And yet uliingia peke yako. Sasa umevuta kila mtu.
So you sell a sufuria we all don't eat.
Sisi hata tukuli siku hiyo.
Yeah.
Tunakuja tunapata umeuza meko. Tapika nini?
Sasa hiyo wewe unafikiria utakulanga tule tu mayai boiro tu barabara. There's a thing with boiled eggs and kachumbari. Ya pilipili with addicts. Kwanza wale wanakunywanga makali.
A guy who is asthmatic, whose soul is inhaler.
Wow.
That's how far.
This thing is, you know it's for you. Yeah?
Yeye ni mtu amefika mwisho.
Anauza inhaler. Sasa what can you say?
Man. Lois Karaoke, I now understand my sister who is still in alcoholism. Very informative. Thank you. Lesson staff from Chuka University. Very nice media. Good morning to you. Very nice. And in Mathenge Resort City of Kenya, Isiolo. Ndari Tukikara, watching from Nyeri, Itheguri area. Say hi to Caroline KAGIA. Her story is very inspirational, my good friend. Keep it up, my dear. Asante sana. Kipta Victor, tunatembea na paso. Yeah, lazima. Unakata hii mambo. All right. We have James Kubaso. Very good discussion going on. Big up, Levi and Caroline, for sharing your story. Joseph Karanja, thank you for sharing your experiences. I have family that continues to struggle with addiction. We need to take head on the stereotypes and continue open discussions. All right. Caro, where is the turnaround? How do we turn this around? Do you see this?
Where is the turnaround? Yeah. We need to have more discussions like this, just the way we are doing. Now, that's number one. Number two, we have a new government. The new government should, by any and every means necessary, roll out programs in different counties, not in different, in all counties. I hope governors and senators are listening to us. Mm-hmm. They need to roll out programs in their counties where we go and speak on these matters, where we teach on these matters, not just speaking, but we teach. New government, new dispensation, they should also look into doing new things. Because the people who are suffering are me and you. You see? If you have people in your county who cannot perform, your county is dead. They should look into these matters. For companies, what are they called? Organizations like, anyway, let me not go there. But anyway, let's look at it from a county government perspective. Every county needs to have such a program rolled out. For the sake of this nation, for the sake of this generation, for the sake of future generations, if there will be others, something needs to be done. I, as Caroline, I have stepped out boldly to share my story because there are people who are suffering and I have seen their suffering. But by the mercies of God and the favor upon my life, I have seen lives change. You see? And so if I go out and speak out, Levi goes and speaks out, somebody else speaks out, you will be able to change a life somewhere. And a changed life will go and change somebody else's life. You see? That's the way it should be. But if we just talk about it behind closed doors, who are we helping? There's nobody we are helping. Okay. Yeah.
What would you tell someone who is stuck doing alcoholism today? Or someone who's just taking alcohol and say, I'm having a good time. It's fine. I'll stop it someday. What would you tell?
We always want to stop it someday. I always knew I'm going to stop it someday. That day almost never came. I'm alive by the mercies and the graces of God and the prayers of those who prayed for me. Some people will never come out. Case in point, last year, we buried my son's dad who died of alcoholism. Wow. You know, he would have been 43 this year, but he didn't make it. He drank himself almost, literally, not almost, to death. He's also a Levi's story in common. He was deported from the US because he couldn't function in the US. He came. But he just couldn't fit into the system. And so he drank himself literally to death. By the time he was dying, his death was so painful because he had 4 heart attacks back to back on the day he died. You know, the doctors tried everything they could, but they couldn't. People also, in fact, I need to point out, people need to stop saying that I'll stop when I want. You never know if you'll be able. My son's dad was never able to stop. And then this other thing of rehab, because people have a problem with rehab. I'll only take them to rehab when they say they want. Who said they will want to be taken to rehab? We are not many. Most people do not want to be taken for help. You know? Don't wait until somebody has hit rock bottom for you to get them help. help is available now while there's still time. So for those who are toying around with the words, I will stop when I want, it is in your best interests to stop now. If you know you're struggling, please seek help and look for it in the right quarters. And if you are a mother or of a daughter and you're hiding your daughter because you don't want shame to come on you, you're being a selfish mother, you're being a selfish parent.
Someday it will be too late. It will come out.
It will be too late. I've had clients who've died because their mothers were hiding them. I have had clients who've died. I have seen with my own eyes. So I'm not just talking for the sake of talking. If you're a mother who has a child or a daughter who is struggling, get your child help before it's too late. You're the one who will cry real tears. Real tears. So help is available. Make use of the help that is available now. If you're saying counseling or therapy is too expensive, there are places that give therapy for free. I don't know if they do addiction therapy, but I know they do counseling for free. Take advantage of it while it is still there. It reaches a point where you get so stuck in addiction you can't come out. For example, guys who find themselves in their 50s or their 60s, they've been drinking forever. When do you think they'll stop? And even if they stop, where will they go? There is nothing for them. They've given up, so they say, let me just drink myself until the day I die.
That's why I was saying we start early. In order to generational change, we've got to start somewhere in high school.
Even high school is too late. You start in primary school.
And start having that discussion.
I want to ask you guys, is there anything called responsible drinking?
I would like to say yes. Unfortunately, the culture that we have has not championed it at all. In terms of we lost the way somewhere. Maybe there was responsible drinking back in the day when guys would go after work and have a drink. And
in our parents' times, it was there.
It was there.
They did it, but you see, even them, they were drinking, I think, proper brands, not these cheap
It's been eroded.
Yeah.
It's been eroded. What we have now is a culture of, like I told you, and everyone is perpetuating that culture. Not just you yourself as a person, but even, look, we've conditioned ourselves and our lifestyle to say that for us to have a good time, we have to go out. The place we go out, it will remain open. It will remain open until we leave. Yeah? If at some point we leave and we want to have a place where we can open more booze, we will get. There's no single wines and spirits shop that says, you know what, I am not selling to you right now. If they can find a way to do it, they'll do it still under the radar. So even our police, when they put these things they have brought back, alcohol blow, blah, 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 they're not doing it because they care. And that's very unfortunate. They're doing it because they want money. The more money you have, the more you slip through these things. So we are perpetuating that culture. If you can drive around, I know a friend of mine, who used to drive with 20K in the glove box. Akona pesa ya kutosha, in case ashikwe, hiyo ni ya polisi. It's just there. So the culture has been perpetuated to the point where we cannot talk about responsible drinking in the same conversation that we are having with going overboard. Because at what point do you go overboard? And I want to say something else also. Because you're asking at what point do you stop. And she was talking even to parents, mothers and all that. Me, I want to talk to individuals and say, look, there are warning signs. Don't miss them. If you wake up in the morning and your friends tell you, Mazee jana ulichoma sana, those are warning signs.
Yeah.
You've not yet reached that point of excess. If you by chance happen to have that one drink that shocks you into doing something you've never done before, either you drink your school fees, you drink your rent, you drink some money that was meant for something else, that's a major warning sign. That's like, you know what, pick a U-turn. Don't miss the warning signs. Because the more you miss the warning signs, the more you head towards the precipice at an advanced stage. And you always know. Because that guilt, that thing you're saying, you take your children to the hub the following day to make them feel better. You know in your heart, I screwed up, Jana.
You're trying to compensate.
When you find yourself in that moment where you're trying to compensate, it's a major, major warning sign. When you cannot function on a Monday morning, if you reach a point where you have to now wake up and you go and have a shot and it makes you feel good because it's morning, it now makes you alive. My brother, my sister, make a U-turn now.
And even this thing of drinking and you can't remember what happened. Kwani jana kulienda aje?
Yeah.
Bas.
You've got moments
amnesia, temporary amnesia. That's also a warning sign.
Yeah. Or you wake up to someone who you don't know.
You don't even know how you got where you got.
You don't know.
Muna answer introductions asubuhi.
Good morning.
By the way, unaitwanga nani? Ulisema unaitwa nani? You know, it's funny, but it's happening.
Yeah. A lot of times.
Yeah.
Many times. And I think that culture has also been normalized.
But you see, that's you see, Gerald, that's the problem right there.
Which also creates another problem, diseases.
We have made the normal to be the abnormal to become normal. What happens to these children of ours, you people? What happens to these children? These parents also who drink in the house and your children are watching. What are you showing those children?
Yeah.
What are you showing those children? I also find it very ironic when I'm called by a parent to talk to their child because their child is drinking so much, yet you as a parent, you drink. You want me to take your child to rehab. I take your child to rehab because they have a drinking problem. When the child comes out, they're coming back to the same house where you, daddy or mommy, is drinking. What do you want that child to do? I want them to become a shosho drinker. Yeah. Shosho. What is shosho drinker? But and you as the parent, you're drinking.
You're very right. We have normalized the abnormal.
What does that mean?
Did you see this week that there was a video going of a guy who shook out from a lorry and then he was just urinating up Ngong Road? Uliona?
Niliona ingine pia.
Ingine pia ilikuwa expressway pale chini. Did you look at the comments?
I didn't pay attention.
Go through them. Kuna majamaa waliingilia the guy who posted. That if you've never caught yourself in situation, how can you just lemea someone like that? What is wrong with you? Ni shughulika na mambo yako, blah, 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 blah. Do you realize that that is normalization of the abnormal?
Yeah.
That now you can't even point out
a rot. We have done the same with drinking. It's in every other vice that we are doing right now. That it becomes now cool that even the people who will call something wrong are the ones who will be called madmen. Caroline, is there responsible drinking? Like, you watch a story, me, I know my drink. Is there anything called responsible drinking, or is it just safe to stay away altogether?
I think it's just safe to stay away. There's a place in my book where I write about how I think I tried being a social drinker, but it didn't work. Yeah, I've always loved alcohol. Mine was twende kabisa. I always say that if it was possible to make a shower out of alcohol, I would be showering in it every day. That's how much I loved alcohol. So for me, there's nothing like social drinking because where I reached, if I was to go back, I don't think I would be able. I don't know. I don't want to put myself in a place where I want to try. Then I'm calling Levi in the middle of the night, telling him, "Yeah, Joe, happy." The one drink became too many. I don't want. So for me, I say, just stay away from the first drink. Period. And people
there's no such thing.
Yeah, for me as Caroline. Yeah. The people say, but me only take wine. I don't know why people think wine is not alcohol. But they didn't know wine is stronger than beer.
Yeah, actually.
Wine is stronger. It has more alcoholic content than beer. So you tell me, because it's not called wine, it's called kawine. I don't know why there's the ka in front of wine. Kadogo kakulala. Well, some people it works. I wish I could be one of those two people, but I'm not. So I prefer telling people, please stay away from the first drink. You don't know if you have that genetic predisposition, if it runs in your family, or if you carry that gene of kupenda pombe. Me was an addict from the word. And my tolerance for many things is very high. So I encourage people, please, stay away from the first drink, Bwana. You never know.
Achana.
Don't be like, Karo, me, I'm here by the mercies of God. Oh.
So when is the last time you tested?
2019.
It
will never go.
So what do you do?
I am very involved in church activities. Very involved. If you see my Facebook posts, there are things I write. But apart from that, I have my daughter who keeps me busy. My initiative keeps me busy. Talking to people like you keeps me grounded. Because it's very easy to fall into that trap. Yeah. That's why we say we are in recovery. We are not recovered. We are in recovery. I'm in recovery until the day Jesus calls me home. I don't know about Levi. Maybe him is recovered. We can pass G through where he has one tally after this. I don't know. So for me, I'm in recovery until the day Jesus calls me home.
Hallelujah.
Yes. Yeah.
Brothers, unasikia kiu hivi?
Mimi niko nini inaitwanga nini? Nakuanga in denial. Nakataanga tu.
Unakataa nini?
Nakataa tu kwamba I'm just like, I'll tell you this. One of my greatest fears is ending up back at the same place. And I always worry about that because I know the triggers that put me there. For example, I'm not very good with high stress. And I think everyone, once you have gotten out of this thing, you must be able to assess yourself. I have a real fear of perhaps losing people. Sometimes I tell God, if anyone goes, let me go first. Because I'm not so sure what would happen if somebody went, around me before me, because I know what that happened to me. There was a point I lost a child, and I do remember the space I got into was very dark. And then after I lost my sister, I got into another even deeper, darker space. So I worry about those kind of triggers, and I'm alive to the fact that alcoholism is a real monster over my shoulder. And I think everyone should be aware of themselves once they have gotten to that point. Now, because I know breweries must make money, alcohols, and you must, for the sake of the tax of the country, wale wanakunywa responsibly, wakunywe too responsibly. But I'll say this. I think everyone must do a self-assessment. Yeah. The question of whether you should drink or not drink is best answered by you on a self-assessment. Carol gave here the cage test. Somebody even said they resonate with it.
Yes.
Me, I even want to come up with a questionnaire at some point and just ask somebody, a few questions that could lead you to a self-assessment of where are you with your alcohol. If you find that it actually affects you in one way or another, it's affecting your job. You've gone to work, you've had an altercation with your boss because you're drunk, you've missed a meeting on a Monday morning that you're supposed to have, you've ever called in sick and it was alcohol, you've either lost money or possessions because of alcohol, you went out and you're a serial loser of phones. Kuna watu wanapotezanga simu almost every Friday because of how they handle themselves. You have disappointed somebody in a relationship, be it a wife, a brother, a sister, something you were supposed to do. You was even supposed to go for a function that you never made it to, where you are a key person, even just missing like your children's events in school, and it was because of you having a hangover.
Especially that's terrible.
If you know you have done those things, and there's alcohol at the center of it, you have to be honest with yourself.
That's true.
And tell yourself, hey, anyway. And the funny thing is, you can't run away. God put in us, the man spirit that actually can detect good and bad. It's why we can say this is bad, this is good. You can't run away from it. The guys who this morning are not at work listening to us because of alcoholism. If that's you, man, you have to make a self-assessment because no one will pull you out but you. Eventually, even if we send you to rehab, even if we send you, and this is the other mistake people make, parents will think, we'll send our child to rehab, it's a patch. Atakuwa fixed, aslapiwe na band-aid, arudi akiwa sawa. No.
It doesn't work that way.
Prodigal son had to sit down and say, bana, nimejikuta aje hapa hivi. How, there's that reasoning you make with yourself, and how have I done this? It's the same reasoning you use to break up from relationships. It's the same reasoning you use to say you're going to pursue something for your life, maybe an education system. Use it for alcohol too. Ask yourself, this is a cost-benefit analysis. This thing I'm doing, what is the cost? What is the benefit? And by the way, experiment. By the way, as I say, Nini, let me just say this before I hand over. Experiment. Take out your money for booze one weekend. 4 weekends in a row. Put it in a jar. Then analyze after 1 month. 30 days too. Just how much money you spend on booze. You'll be surprised. Ulikuwa club, na ukirudi nyumbani, tokens inalia. Huna power, but you had like 10 or 15,000 shillings on Friday. Na unanunua power ya 20 bob sasa Monday.
And you're going to pee it all at the end of the day.
It's the most surprising thing, And you're hooked. And if you get 1,000 bob today, guess what? You will still buy 20 bob power and use 900 bob for alcohol.
Na uski, hata wasema petroli ni pesa mingi, likana nunua bia na 300. Alright, Solomon Kisangadi, good discussion. So sad the matters you're discussing are real. Young people will enter a club on Friday and leave on Sunday. And this to them is normal. Samuel Ngoda, great discussion. Thank you so much for tuning in. All right, tackle of the day. Caroline, your tackle of the day is your parting shot.
My parting shot is, if you're sick, if you're struggling, if you know somebody who is struggling, please reach out and seek help. It's not too late. If you're still alive, if you're still moving, it means God has a purpose and a greater purpose for you. Seek help while it is still there. If you are thinking of if you want to start drinking, please. The first drink is always the hardest to start and always the hardest to quit. People start with, yuck, I'll never take it again, and find themselves back there. So please, by the mercies of God, I encourage everyone. If you've not started, please don't start. If you're already caught up in the rut, please seek help. There's no shame. Come out and speak out and seek help while there's still time.
Levi.
Yeah. My parting shot is just, let's just self-analyze. Let's start early. Let those people who are tasked with the jobs that they're supposed to do in terms of speaking with matters alcohol and addiction actually do their jobs. You can't have guys who are working in Akada and we have a runaway generation just hooked on drugs and alcohol, and you guys are doing nothing really to scratch the surface. We don't feel you, we don't hear you, we don't see you in these spaces. And government should be more proactive in trying to make rehabs as affordable as possible. One of the most expensive places you can ever go to is a rehab, and that's a very, very sad thing, because even when people want to seek help, it's so out of reach money-wise that they give up and continue with where they were at. We need to spend resources on reforming people. Companies need to have spaces where these discussions are had monthly basis. You know, we talk about it, we do these things. Some of you guys are about to have company meetings, and the company is going to buy booze, how do I call ad infinitum. Mkunye pombe mpaka ishe mpaka mwende nyumbani mpaka as much as companies are spending so much money kuburudisha watu, they must also spend money on actually trying to show people what would be the better life for them to live, because you're going to lose resources as a company. If you lose a person, you're losing not just a person in your company, you're losing training that they've done for years, you're losing their know-how, their expertise. Training somebody else to get to that place is not going to be an easy thing to do, especially if they have gone because of drugs and alcohol. It's an epidemic all of us must get and start with. Churches must also have programs where they're doing it also in church. Don't just talk to people about going to heaven. We are living on earth here. And while we are living on earth, we are being ravaged by things like drugs and alcohol. And it's in church. It's in church. Yeah. So even pastors must get on board with this story and even begin to have these real discussions, even in their congregations. Get people to come and talk about those things that we are going through life before we get to heaven. Because after all, haven't you heard people singing in the bars? In heaven there is no beer. That's why we drink it here. I hope I've not given someone a name for a song.
I had another one. You were saying that he said, I think one of the Mogidi artists, and they're saying that we are drinking. We are drinking because we want to finish alcohol so that our children don't find it.
Oh, wow.
I think you've had that.
Amazing.
So I mean, it's all. And then one thing about these things is that it's all funny. It's all funny and game until it gets to you. It's all funny. It's all funny until it gets to you, someone that you know.
And God is gracious.
And then it's on.
She said, all of us have lost someone. Me, I can count people. The other day I was thinking about the guys I know who have died in road accidents. Guys my age, guys like me. 2 guys I was in a club with.
Yeah.
Imagine tulikuwa kwa club. Walitoka 6 and by 6:30 they were no more. And I asked God, na mimi those days I've gone home. Driving over bumps, nini, what. And the funny thing about that is that it makes you feel a bit invisible. The stupidity with drunkenness.
Yeah.
Is you think,
it's true. And it's like you reach a point of, I think subconsciously you wonder, you're pushing your borders. It's like, how low can I get? How far can I go? You keep pushing the boundaries. You keep pushing until at some point you'll push to nothingness. You wake up, God knows where you'll wake up, either this side or I don't know where you'll wake up, but you'll wake up somewhere.
And then we'll tell a story about you, and you know what? We'll forget. People forget you. Yeah. Me, I remember my friends, they died in 1997, by the way. Even if I say their names now, they are people struggle.
Imagine wangekuwa nani sasa. Did something.
Yeah.
Wangekuwa nani sasa. And people will forget you, and then the cycle
continues. Gredo Chanda, this is a discussion that needs to continue. Real issues affecting all families. Thank you so much, Caroline, for having the courage to speak about these things. People see shame in mistakes and the things that, and addiction especially. And that's why more people continue to be ravaged by this thing. They continue to get finished there. So for having the courage, also thank you, Levi, for also speaking. This is one guy also taking us. Maybe I'll tell him, hey, is if you unasemanga mizi, kwanza ameweka vitu zake kwa kitabu.
Levi has many lives. This guy, he's like a cat.
Kwanza niko na part 2 inakuja.
This guy is like a cat.
Ameingia part 2.
Let me tell you, but these horror stories are not just mine. Niacheni mchezo. Even this guy has got a horror story of how he got to where he was. Ni vile tu hataki kuandika kitabu.
Many people have
Maybe
stories, but it takes
I'll get
boldness.
Mingi, bro. It takes courage.
It's the boldness that many people don't have.
You're waiting to make it. You've made it. Do you know how many guys want to be on your show? To talk to you as a media person. Sometimes, we wait for too long saying, when I make it, I'll write something. That also stopped me from writing for a long time. I was like, I haven't made it.
But it's just boldness. Kuna ile vitu huwezi sema. Unakanga unasema,
Look at how she's spoken about her doors. Look at how we have talked about doors this whole morning.
But do you know, for us to speak our stories, it's for me, I would say it's because I've reached a point of acceptance.
Yeah.
I accepted, and it's not accepting kusema. I accepted in my heart, this is what happened. It happened. I cannot rewrite the story. However, I could change somebody else's life. And for me, I feel strongly it's within me. This is what I was called to do. This is why I'm here. I had to go through the alcoholism, the depression, anxiety, miscarriages. I had to go through all that for me to be able to speak boldly without shedding a tear, because I could be helping somebody who is at the verge of suicide. They are borderline depression, borderline something, psychosis, So God made me go through all that for me to minister to somebody out there. Did I say minister? Oh, preach it, girl.
Yeah, you said minister.
So I am here to spread and share the message of hope and encouragement that it is actually possible to come out of the pits and make it in life. If you choose to. It's also your mindset. Your mindset is your game changer.
Such a choice you have to make.
Mindset is your game changer.
Yeah.
Once you change your mind, your mindset, my friend, your doors will open as if you're headed to Canaan.
It's very touchy.
I celebrate you guys.
It's
for
at that point that,
It's at that point that
kama nilikuwa kanisa sasa ndio tungeishia
that
sasa.
I know.
At this point right here.
Ameanza kusema sasa when we are still in that spirit.
Hallelujah.
Please ushers ensure that the basket is moving around.
Moving around.
When the spirit is still raining. Hapo unashika kadhaa unatoa kabisa roho lakini azile madamade umetoa macho ya leo.
Asha will wait on us.
Sasa kisikia sasa ndio wanaanza kusema kikapu ikifika Masaki kikapu anasema wants to go and have a pee. Hata kutoa pesa. Thank you so much you guys for the boldness. We will keep these discussions going. We'll continue to speak about it.
Thank you.
I'm a great believer in conversations on how much they can do. Some of us still don't have the courage and the boldness to speak, but someday we will get there.
Amen.
Until then, let's keep these conversations going. Let's speak to young people. Like I said, I think I never really thought about it that way. That sometimes we wait too long for those guys to come now and be the guys you want to speak to now. We are so focused on the people who are already in the deep end now, and we're forgetting that there are guys who are growing through that channel. And so it becomes a vicious cycle, like a conveyor belt. You're sitting here, it's rolling, you're not caring about the way it's being manufactured, just waiting for it to get here so you can start addressing. So we need to go down and start speaking. And also, I think as we have just said, as time goes by, it's becoming more difficult to do parenting. Because the things that you're trying to stop your children from doing, you yourself, you're stuck in it.
Yeah.
There's no way you can tell your children not to drink alcohol. And you arrive home at 7 a.m., drunk, midnight, you're high and all that. They see alcohol that you take about. So it's becoming even more and more difficult to raise children. And you're even finding parents who are drinking with their children. You sasa yani utasema aje sasa. Utaambiaje mtu huwezi kunywa hizi vitu. And it's becoming normal. Unasikia tu wameenda na madhe dunda ama buda wameenda kunywa pamoja. And also over time we are losing shame also. Shame is eroding so fast. There are stages or there are states that you before or now you never even want to see your children to see you in. But now it's normal. Unaambia daddy, hey, jana ulikuwa mbaya. Wewe unacheka hapa. But then it's something that you're normalizing. It comes easy. Tomorrow when your child comes in, like they cannot stop them. Then you have to call
You've
Carol.
lost your authority as a parent at that point.
Yeah, you've lost authority. So you've lost the moral ground.
Yeah.
But I think authority comes from the moral ground. Your morality. That's what gives you power to speak. You understand? So unaita Carol. Sasa Carol naye si mzazi. but the kid still comes back to the environment. So I think even as this thing continues, there's almost a guarantee that we'll continue to create more malfunctioning human beings. Out of the fact that it's a trend that is parents are struggling with it. The factory is messed up. Factory has sukari iko na mercury. Sukari natoka is already less. So you can only hope and pray that you're going to have a turnaround as we keep having this discussion. When we speak to children, we also speak to parents. I don't know now where is the turnaround with the parents, because now there's a point of decision. But yeah,
the parents are the ones who need to hear first.
But also for anyone who is going up there, you told us about a story last week about 2 sons.
Yeah,
you grew up with an alcoholic father. One of them became an alcoholic. Said, I became an alcoholic because of my father. I saw him drinking, so I also drank. I saw him smoking, so I also smoked. Another one really stayed away from all those things. And he was asked, why did you choose this path? He says, because of my father. When I saw him drinking like this, I would never want to be like this. So you also have a choice to make, and you realize that you can never live another person's life. Sometimes you think that you're doing it because you want to punish your focus on whatever it is. But yeah, come and go. So anyone who is stuck within that point where you think you can always have an excuse to hold on. And funny thing about human beings is that there's comfort in excuses. Just know that at the end of the day, it's you going to go down the drain alone. And sometimes Caro is lucky. She had a family that could reach back and like you'd hold your hand back. Sometimes unaenda ukisonga solo.
No one cares.
Huyo used to him, alcoholic. Kaende. All right, it's been the 7th of November, the State of the Common Sense Edition, the Monday Common Sense Edition of the 7th of November 2022. You've been Caroline KAGIA and Levi Kones, and we're having a conversation around substance abuse and alcohol abuse, especially how you can get out. You've heard a story from Caroline, so vile wanasemanga kama safari ya mbinguni. God is very democratic. Anasema nimekuambia mambo ya wokovu na nimekuambia pia mambo ya jehanamu. So amua gani. Na hakuji kukupigia makelele usiku. So you've had it. So you make a choice. I know there are a lot of people that have normalized. Like you see, people wanasema mtu amelewa akumbuki what happened. But then it's fun. Unapiga story mkikunywa tena. So those are things that are happening. It become a culture. You can decide to make a turnaround today for your own life and make a better decision. Not only for you, for people, also for people who are looking up to you. The trauma that you subject people who are looking up to you as well, it's not something that you can always reverse. You might never get a chance to reverse. You might never get a second chance. We say there's always a second chance, but second chance don't come always. Sometimes there's no second chance. Sometimes you're gone. Like Levi's brother, Levi's friends. You've gone, but since I didn't say no, Leander, in your 20s, that is, you've gone. Ushaenda, ulituacha. There's no second chance. Unasikia uko mbinguni pia kama ulienda hivyo sasa ni jehanamu direct bwana. Kuchomeka kila siku. Jameni. Haya. Until tomorrow, the State of the Nation. This is the Tackle and it ends right now. Bye-bye. We love you.